and the time they are spending is like less than 1 hour, because maybe they're starting the day at home with the newspaper, the traditional newspaper online. And here's the real question is like, have you subscribed the daily newspaper by taking into consideration on safety towards COVID-19? And it is like 75% of the respondents said no, they didn't unsubscribe the newspaper. And to avoid, if the people have unsubscribed the newspaper, whether they have subscribed to the same online portal of the same newspaper, and the answer says no. Majority says no. And here 41, most of the people are like discouraged in taking paid subscription of the newspaper. The result shows like that. And also people shows like most of the people are comfortable reading hard copy of the newspaper than online. The thing is like, and also what benefit you see most in reading a newspaper online? Like constant update is one of the benefit, immediate accessibility is another benefit, and availability at phone is one of the benefit of online newspaper or the internet platform. And by reading offline, it is like become a habit. Generation to generation, we are teaching our children and grandchildren to read newspaper and get in touch with the alphabets and all. So it is like a habit for them to read newspaper. And at what time do you need newspaper online? 60% of free time. It is like free time and leisure time activities, like to swipe up and understand the news is happening which is online. And the another important question is like, if you are an online subscriber, will you continue this in future? Most of the people say maybe, some are like no, and most of them, because see, then my findings is like online newspaper is not taking over the traditional platform, but actually they are getting into a new connection, a new way of connecting with the people at this pandemic situation. And one of the disadvantages of this online portal is like the news content or the news can be manipulated by anybody. So people really actually believe in the authenticity of the traditional newspaper, and they don't want to actually throw away the print media or the traditional media. In current pandemic situation, see, as you can see, 75.6% of the crowd are still using the print media. And the habit of reading newspaper and getting the daily report through this medium is genuine. They say the newspaper, the traditional newspaper, is genuine, and there is some responsible person behind the news. And after the pandemic situation, most of the online e-paper started online subscription, but people are not ready to subscribe, and they feel discouraged to get a paid subscription online, because in online this newspaper news can be manipulated. They are not very sure about the authenticity of the news. So survey results show constant update, immediate accessibility, and convenience are one of the like highlighting feature of the online newspaper. And until there are free service, until there is a free service on the internet, people like to read the hot news. If it is paid, people are discouraged actually not to read newspaper. See, the one of the best newspaper in India is the Hindu newspaper. And till March 2020, the Hindu newspaper is free in online portal. But from March 2020, after this pandemic situation, the Hindu newspaper has made it a paid subscription. And it is like people are little bit back. Okay, they don't want to do it because they are already having a traditional newspaper and they believe in this traditional medium. So my study shows that traditional medium will never going to fade away, but it is taking a new form. But with the help of online newspaper, it will both go hand in hand. So thank you. This is my presentation, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Anne. Let's go for the next presentation. Time is really running out of time. We are running out of time because we started late. So next presenter, please. Thank you. We'll have a discussion if anybody, if time permits. So you are a good presenter. And thank you, Anne. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your nice presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
It
much.
was very wonderful. But again, as I have told you, like the earlier presenter, whenever you have lots of data, information, You process this data and information into such an interpretation that creates a new model, that creates a new body of knowledge for us. And that's a good thing that during coronavirus, you are fortunate enough that you are working during this period and you have a chance to study coronavirus media, online media, vis-a-vis traditional media,
Yes, sir.
subscription, people interest, so user generated content,
Yes,
etc.
sir.
So many things, right? So wonderful, good. As a young scholar, you did a very good job. We are very happy. And I'm calling the next presenter. Please,
Thank
please.
you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you
so
so much.
grateful.
And love to listen to once
Thank you.
again,
Thanks.
if time permits. Okay,
Thank you
that's
so much, sir.
okay. Next presenter,
Yeah.
please.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is. I'm going to be using Professor Khan's account to make my presentation. But may I also ask the convener to share my presentation if you have. I am Dr. Mutangadura Joseph.
Okay.
What is your topic of
Second.
presentation?
Politicization of COVID-19, the Southern African experience.
Yes, here it is.
Exactly that one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. In the
Good luck.
interest of, yes,
You can start.
I can start. Oh, thank you so much. I was saying in the interest of time, let me rush into my presentation. Then I'll be asking you to quickly move forward. Okay, the first slide carries the topic, politicization of COVID-19 lockdowns, experiences from Southern Africa. We'll move to the next slide. So thank you. Let me start by thanking the university for hosting this prestigious conference on international journalism and decision making. I also wish to express my gratitude to the organizers of this conference who gave me this opportunity to share these experiences from this side of the continent. Journalists working during disaster moments represent frontline workers, just like in war, in natural disasters, and in health pandemics like the COVID topic that is at hand today. The public is made able to see, experience, and monitor the effects through the eyes of journalists. I'm trying to stress the importance of journalists in times of disaster. In the COVID-19 context, journalists also joined the entire health caregivers. In other words, I would say it was a period where we were not seeing only the nurses or the doctors, but journalists were so much part of this whole thing. So my presentation today is going to look at the politicization of lockdowns, because so much has been said about the lockdown, but my side of the presentation is the politicization of the lockdown situation, and particularly the experiences from Southern Africa. The onset of COVID-19, COVID-19 as a world pandemic, it gave the nations very little time to prepare and adjust. Information sharing and dissemination is crucial in periods of disaster and disaster management. The importance of media and information can never be said enough in these moments. So the enormity of the pandemic had unique effect on nations, such that governments were not sure how much to do or how much to reveal. In the interest of safety and security, a tussle was always expected to ensue between independent media and government control on information flow.
You hurry up because 10 minutes is approaching, almost 4 or 5 minutes is gone. Okay.
Next slide. No, thank you. Right. In international perspective of these lockdowns, I'm just picking things that I think will build towards the politicization. Human rights experts on the 16th of March, which is around the time that lockdowns were pronounced throughout the rest of the world, they urged states to avoid an overreach of security measures in their response to the coronavirus outbreak. Now, these same human rights experts further stated that emergency declarations based on the COVID-19 outbreak should not be used as a basis to target particular groups, minorities, or individuals. It should not function as a cover for repressive action under the guise of protecting health, nor should it be used to silence the the work of human rights. In short, the United Nations was trying to protect health on one hand and freedoms on the other hand. We move to the next slide. The role of journalism or journalists in a pandemic. Journalists represent an essential service in moments of disaster. When all scientists are hard at work looking for solutions, it is the journalists that communicate all those efforts. So all forms of media are foot soldiers. When such things happen, then I had this quote from Manat 2019, the work and movement of journalists should be unrestricted as long as accredited journalists continue to be guided by their core ethics and regulations. So fundamental journalists should adhere to the highest professional and ethical standards and give priority to authoritative messages regarding the crisis and refrain from pushing and thus amplifying unverified stories. Next slide, let me get to the story. The Southern African context and experience. You shall see that whilst I'm talking about the Southern African experience, but my point of reference is Zimbabwe. The COVID-19 pandemic called for all government to enact regulations. This is known. However, in the case of some Southern African countries, these restrictions were implemented through a variety of problematic legal instruments, often validated retrospectively. Actually, if I use the example of Zimbabwe, they had some quick statutory instruments that were put in place to go in line with regulating the lockdowns and how the country was going to be dealing with the problem. So media freedoms, whilst they're crucial, the provision of timely information about public health risks is critical in this crisis. And the pandemic and associated regulations that were provided by the government later became used as smokescreen to continue a calculated and systematic effort to eliminate threats to their control by restricting citizens' fundamental freedoms. So in a way, yes, the regulations have been introduced to make sure that people are being protected from health challenges, but at the same time, you find that at the end of it, the system or the nations or the state, the central government is pushing another agenda. Let's move to the next slide. To further confirm this, journalists were arrested and detained. I'm particularly focusing at the period of the hard lockdown, which is between March and June, which was a period where people were not allowed to move around, but journalists, because they were very much part of the frontline workers, they needed to be moving around. So press freedom started to rapidly decline in the country since the declaration of the lockdown. According to the data collected by International Press Institute, which has been monitoring press freedom violations in connection with COVID-19 worldwide, more than a dozen journalists were arrested between March and June. Nkaban Charles, who is a regional campaign coordinator for the Media Institute of Southern Africa and the Zimbabwean chapter, told IPI that government has kept a tight leash on information, making it harder for independent journalists to access information. On the other hand, investigative journalism was made harder because the government put in place regulations that information must come from one source. Information from sources other than the government was deemed as fake news. And with it, a 20-year jail term was imposed. So another award-winning investigative journalist by the name Hope Chungwon was arrested on July 20 for his tweets exposing government corruption in the award of COVID-19, PPEs, and medication. Next slide. Now, in the wake of all these arrests and detention, all the media houses, media personnel, freelance journalists, media activists, they came together and petitioned the government, the regional body, and the United Nations. So on 12 August of 2020, 11 unions and advocacy groups representing Zimbabwean journalists petitioned the president of the country, SADC, which is the regional body, the African Union, and the United Nations, demanding an end to harassment of journalists. The union stated that from March 3rd, when the president declared the coronavirus lockdown, over a dozen journalists had been arrested, beaten by security forces, or forced to flee their homes. Below is a statement which I will not read in the interest of time, but they were like summarizing everything. So in short, I'll say the government weaponized the law when they deployed the army, when they deployed the police. They weaponized the law while entrusting the army and the police to suppress freedom of movement and expression. The narrowing of political space increasingly restricted media activities across the region, and investigative journalism became criminalized. So the pandemic created a securitization dilemma where governments ostensibly attempted to avert the pandemic, and in the end having negatively affecting the situation in the country in as far as human security, freedom of expression is concerned. The next slide. In conclusion, the lockdowns, while being necessary to avert a health crisis, they became a weapon in the hands of the system to fight dissent and freedom of expression. Threats were expressed by senior government officials towards media personnel with the intention to force them to self-censor. Journalists became afraid to hold the authorities to account through investigative journalism. The virus is the issue, but deployment of the army and the heavy police presence turned the common people into the enemy and not the virus. In this case, COVID-19 response became based in securitization, turning a health problem into a security problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mutagadur. Okay. Lots of information you have given, and we'll have a question answer at the end of the session. I was very curious to know how in South Africa, how in this particular area like Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, what is the perspective, how it is different from the general perspective on the outside. Okay, that is very important. And there was a very important study done by African Union, impact of the COVID-19 outbreak on governance, peace, security in the Horn of Africa. If you could have told us more about how Eritrea is controlling it under a regime, you know how it is, how the Ethiopian regime and Eritrean regime are different. If you could have made this kind of distinct study, that will be attracting attention of the audience worldwide. And what is very important is that how you are managing with the paucity of funds, how you are managing the whole situation when meaning how poor countries are facing the same virus which is being faced by America, Latin America, by the Italy, by India. Okay, how lack of resources, but then no suggestion from my side. Only thing is that I was most interested to find out from your study what is the the Horn of Africa perspective. In your study, if you would have focused on Horn of Africa case studies, it would have been great. Ethiopian case study, Eritrean case studies, Somalian case studies, make 2-3 case studies, make a brilliant paper, and wish you good luck. Let's call the next presenter. Okay.
Yes, please.
Welcome the next presenter. Time is
Dr.
up.
Ravi?
Yeah, Ravi
Dr. Ravi,
Shankar.
yes, do you want to start?
Okay, Ravi Shankar, start presenting because time is running out. Okay.
There's something wrong in the mic, Dr. Ravi.
Ravi has another co-presenter, then she can take over.
Okay, Dr. Tasha?
Tasha, please, Dr. Tasha.
Dr. Tasha is with us. Dr. Tasha. We cannot hear you. There is something wrong in the microphone, and there's noise.
Yeah, Dr. Ravi, your mic is not responding. So
yes, please, Dr. Tasha, please, can you? Okay,
Tasha,
can we take? Yes, Tasha is with us at the participants. Yes.
Hi,
Tasha,
can you please share the slide?
Please.
Sure. Just a second, I will share.
Let me introduce Dr. Tasha. She did PhD under me, Feda. So Dr.
Really?
Fish,
Oh,
he is a PhD
I
scholar.
said at the very beginning of the session, you have everywhere colleagues.
I have, yes.
Yeah. So
From,
Dr. Tasha,
from
it's now
Salala.
you.
That's
Yes.
Yeah.
that's when you work in many places. Look, I have two colleagues from Salala. I have a research scholar here who did PhD. He's a magnificent and wonderful scholar. Okay, carry on, Dr. Tasha. No time here. Okay.
Yes, we are running
Sure,
out of
sure,
time.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start.
Please put it on the full screen mode. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
well,
You can.
okay, a very good morning to everyone. I'm Dr. Tasha. I'm presenting on behalf of my PhD scholar Ravi Shankar. And just go to the first slide, please. First slide.
The one, the this one.
The first one, that is the starting beginning. Yeah. So since we would love to share our paper with all the participants over here, and we are trying to, our research is basically on the role of social media and news channels, how social media and news channels were coming up with various news during the COVID-19, which is currently going on, and especially we are focusing on the lockdown time when our country was witnessing lockdown. So that time we were finding that there were some fake news also which were erupting again and again through various social media platforms. And there was a very responsible role which was being served by the news channels, where they were trying to put up some programs and talk about and tell the audience, inform the audience that this is a fake news which is being propagating through XYZ social media platforms. So here we were trying to do a kind of a content analysis. We tried to find out various fake news which were coming up through social media, and we were trying to find out that how the news channels have responded to it, how they have informed on their daily basis in the programs that these are viral, these are fake news, and we should try to have that kind of media literacy to understand the news from the non-news and not to be easily affected and moved by it. So this is the main core of our paper. We were trying to find out the responsible attitude that has been taken up by the news channels. So basically in our abstract, we said that, because of the COVID, because it's a very deadly disease and people were scared, there was a lot of fear. So we found that a lot of misleading, misinformation and disinformations were prevailing. And this study is on the Indian perspective, where we are trying to analyze the fact and the impact of fake news, fake informations that was spreading around in social media. One of the reasons that I find is why people are easily moved by social media is because they are personalizing it. They are actually using on one-to-one. It is an interactive media. So if I am on Facebook, if I'm writing something, people who know me would trust because they know me in person. So somewhere, because of this personalized approach, social media is becoming a center of spreading misinformation and disinformation. So this is can we move on to the next slide, ma'am?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is the study. And we found that the objective is to analyze the role of influential media channels to somewhere the objective slide, man, the last one, where the objective was mentioned, the previous slide to this. Yes, the role of influential media channels on fake news in India during COVID-19. So there were some meaningful efforts which were taken out by the news channels to clear the misconceptions and misinformations which were spreading. Okay, next slide. Next, ma'am. So in the of course we tried to put up some theoretical framework. So there was some work which was given by Brody and Merrer, and also by Oramus Deblu, on fake news and the term that they have coined, and how political communication is being done, where the propaganda is spread, and a kind of a hatred, or a kind of an atmosphere of tension and turmoil is being created. So this is all being taken up in the theoretical framework. Can we move on to the next slide? So in the findings, in the full paper, we have mentioned, because it was a content analysis, we have mentioned all the screenshots of various fake news which were there. And then the programs, the news channels, which were, on the same day or in the least possible time, trying to, put up that through their medium on television news that this was a fake news, and we should understand it. We should try to have encourage media literacy, and because India is a country where we have a huge population which is illiterate, and what they see they easily believe. So because of low literacy rate, we find that it is very easy to deviate people. We also find that on the name of religion, on the name of caste, people are easily influenced and moved. So this is all has been given in our full paper, and we would definitely share it with you. So in the conclusion, we just wrote that the TRP somewhere increased, the use of internet by the people, because they were in the lockdown, they were the offices were shut, they were at home, so no work was going on. So the screen time increased, and therefore there was a lot of increase in the TRP, the screen time, and confusion because of the misinformation and disinformation, which is seriously very dangerous. And there should be a strong regulation to get away with this. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. I think this is the end of the last paper, is it? Dr. Feda, is it the last?
No, so we have another paper.
Yes.
My teacher, Dr. Sangeeta Tripathi, will be presenting the next paper, and I'm very happy and I look forward to hear her.
Yeah, and Dr. Ahlam is with her, yes.
Yeah.
How many papers are due? Sangeeta Tripathi and?
This is only one paper. They are joint research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tasha, for presenting. Welcome, Sangeeta. Be precise, concise, and focused. Thank you.
Are you going to share, or do you want me to share?
Yeah, I can share the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see the screen?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Okay.
You can proceed, my dear.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ahlam Al-Zubayti, and my colleague, Dr. Sangeeta. We are going to present our paper, which is about students' perceptions and academic challenges with technology-mediated learning during COVID-19, a study within Salalah higher education institutions. So our introduction is about that coronavirus pandemic has indicated a largest ever depletion of the education system in history. After the contagious virus outbreak of COVID-19 across the world, each country government has taken many decisions as a containment measure to ensure the public health of their nationals. Suspension of the academic classes was one of them. Like the other countries, Oman has also implemented lockdown and suspension of the studies from 15th of March to 15th of April. The colleges, universities, campuses, activities had stopped, and instigating to complete institutions were completely closed. This has dramatically changed social culture behavior, whereby emerged distance e-learning and e-working culture, and the spring semester had been undertaken remotely on different digital platforms. As per Oman's Spurium Committee decisions of suspension of face-to-face studies, all higher education institutions have planned to continue online teaching and learning for fall 2020, as well to battle this abnormal situation and engage students without any semester break. So our problem statement is that a broad close of the higher education institution and the start of online learning has created many immediate challenges of academic and students. Students' perceptions in case of studying remotely on the mountains with poor internet connections, or the group assignments, or even lab work submissions, shortage of devices, absence of technical knowledge are critical issues. The rationale of the study. So COVID-19 has impacted all spheres of our lives. At the present situation, countries are giving the priority for physical health, but issues and challenges of academic world is its psychological pressure on the students and academic also need to be addressed. So this gives us a reason to pursue this study. The objectives of the study is to explore the perceptions of the students and teachers with online learning and the psychological impact on them, investigate the challenges of online learning to maintain quality education from the teacher's perspective, to suggest more option of assignments to ensure learning outcomes of practical and theoretical courses. So now I will hand it off to my colleague, Dr. Sangeeta. You can resume. Dr. Sangeeta?
Can you stop presentation from there so that I can take the presentation?
Sure. I stopped sharing.
Okay, thank you so much, Anam.
My pleasure.
Yeah, from I will talk about research methodology, how we did it. This research study addressed to the key objective to understand the students' perceptions towards online learning and the challenges of academicians with online teachings. The object research design is the quantitative-based cross-sectional study. The samples have been obtained from the Ministry of Technologies and Applied Sciences, Salalah. Two separate self-administered questionnaires have been developed in English and Arabic language, with focused on positive and negative perceptions of students and teachers towards online learning. Questionnaires pre-testing has been done before the distributions of the survey form. Two separate questionnaire link has been created by Google Doc form and distributed to target respondent through email and WhatsApp network. Text review also have been done. Now, the variable of the study for the presentations, for the presented study, certain variables are devised and understand the challenges and difficulties of online learning during COVID-19. So these are my variables: nature of its course and its measures, availability of resources, training for online learning, method of communications, course assessment and evaluations, students' engagement and self-regulations, and network availability. These are my research. What are the perception of students and teachers with online learning and the role of academic as course facilitator? What are the challenges and difficulties of online learning? How challenges and difficulties of online learning affect the quality of online learning? And then it creating extra stress on the students and the teachers. What are other options for innovative assessment to improve online learning? So the discussions, the present discussion is based on 272 responses obtained from University of Technologies and Applied Sciences, Salalah. The data analysis has been done on using a descriptive method of percentage of frequency for responses. Chart has been used for better understanding. In this survey, 66.9% female students and 30% male students respondent have taken part. Most of the students are from 18 to 25 age group. The respondent are bachelors of graduation and diploma students. These students are from mass communication, English department, IT, business, and tourism majors. 27 academic respondents have also taken part in this research. So because the time limitations are there, so I'm not going to talk about all these descriptions. I'm just trying to show you that these are the graphs which shows that how the academic responses and the students' respondents are, and majority of the respondents are when I'm talking about the difficulties, a majority of the respondent say that they are agree to these difficulties. So I will jump to my findings and we'll talk about it. So the findings of the research is the present finding displays a scenario of technologies mediated learning and student perceptions, academic challenges during COVID-19. Sudden closure of academic institutions have created pressure on the students and the teachers, which create mental stress during COVID-19. Student stress was related to completion of group assignments and lab work, while academicians' pressures were related to creating course content and assessment. Online learning has three basic requirements, basically the student understanding and follow-up. And the second one is course design and content developing. The third one is connectivity and technical infrastructure. In absence of one, it can create many big, small issues. During our research, we found that majority of the students and academics respondents say, though online learning saved their semesters and time, but in long run, it is not going to solve the purpose of quality learning. Present course content and assessments are according to the face-to-face learning, which creates again issues to achieve learning objective. Learning of practical courses suffer a lot as they all are lab-based. Strong connectivity and robust internet infrastructure is prerequisite to online learning. In absence of this, it has all power to disrupt whole learning system. During online live sessions, the length of the classrooms are also matter a lot. Most of the respondents say that long classes can create monotony. And for the teachers, it is going to be also difficult because if the class timings are 1 hour 45 minutes, it is going to means they have to serve the more content, more comprehensive content, which is not available at right time. So the prescribed one is the class time should be 1 hour maximum to 45 minutes. It is enough for the students. Um, while
I
the
think Dr. Debashish is going to leave to me moderating the time. Just we are running out of time. Please, Doctor.
what should I continue? Because I'm not done.
Just in a second. Yeah, please, in a second. Wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Frequency of the classroom can be taken as timetable schedule. As online learning is different than face-to-face learning, training and technical support is required to ease the process of learning. In absence of this, teaching and learning becomes tiresome. As assessment is a critical component in online learning, summative, formative, and class-to-class basis assignment can be given to the students. Academics and students respondent both agreed that during online learning, academic dishonesty can be done because the courses, because the assessment cannot be tracked on the everyday basis. There are some advantage of this that a student can save their times because they have to, suppose that if they have to attend just one class, before they have to come to all along that college and attend the classes, and they are consuming a lot of time. But here, if it is online, they are just attending one class and then they are busy with some other works. Students are also scoring good marks, so this is also a benefit can be counted. Now the conclusion, based on discussions and finding, we can say that technologies have given us a lot of opportunity to connect and continue our work without any disruptions of the semester. But ongoing experience tell us that our learning can't replace classroom face-to-face learning in future. It will take long time still to go. Developing technologies have definitely facilitated us a lot and increased our dependencies over them. But fully online learning requires robust internet infrastructure. Along with this, course content need to be modified and mixed delivery method need to be applied. Assessment need to be changed each time to maintain the quality and to stop academic dishonesty. Social media along with email can be utilized effectively for better communication with the students. Thank you so much for the listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debashish. Please unmute your mic. Ravid, still the problem is still there.
Right. Good study, but the contextuality is questioned. Suppose I follow the same method in other countries. What is the special contextuality of Salala students? That needs to be actually, contextuality is very important. Like in Dr. Khadija's paper we have in South African context, she has tried to find the contextuality. So fine, you have done these tools you have applied, but what exactly this, if this study is made in New York, how these New York students and the Sarala students will be different? That's the curiosity I have. If you can enrich this paper, fine. Dr. Tasha and Ravi Shankar presented very structured paper, which was missing in many of the papers. Alan's paper is structured, no doubt about it. This is a suggestion for Dr. Muta Gudur. Yeah, you should follow that. What is the objective, then the way they are presenting it. Okay, most of the researchers are presented in this way, and it is very important, essential. Research is not only compilation of fact, you have to present it in a specific way. That's the suggestion. So this contextuality issue is with the my Salala colleagues. I congratulate them. I have seen them after a long time. And now Dr. Tasha, for you, this deep learning and fake news detection is now part of media. Algorithms have been developed that when the news is processed. So that's good that you have taken up the issue, but it is also very important to extend the dimension of your study. So what else? Dr. Khadija's paper is well presented, I have to tell you. Altogether, it's a wonderful opportunity to listen to all of you. And Dr. Anne's paper is also good. The psychographic profile that she has developed on social media, it's good you try to extend the dimension of your study, go in depth. As I have told you, it's very important in research that out of your information, what exactly you are presenting, the body of knowledge, that is very important. And very important for the Canadian Ahram University is that, or Ahram Canadian University is that, this COVID-19 situation and how the students are learning, this is a wonderful opportunity for all the faculty to work together from different perspective and make a volume out of it. And that would be a real contribution from the Egyptian sites, and all other scholars from other part of the country can contribute to that if it is an edited version. And thank you. I'm privileged to be with you as a moderator. I'm very happy to listen to the dean. I'm very happy to listen to all of you. Thank you. Let's conclude the session. If Dr. Feda has to say.
Let's first take questions, and we have
You
5 minutes for question and answers. Yes.
You have time for question and answer. You said it is 1.5
Only 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. Carry on. Okay, question and answer. I thought we have overstepped the next session. So carry on with the next question answer quick.
Is there any question anyone wants to say? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, then we are going to summarize.
Yes, I just want to comment.
Ines, you're welcome.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Fidel. How are you doing?
Hello, doctor.
Fine.
I'm fine.
Well, unfortunately, I only quote the last presentation, and it was talking about education and during the pandemic and the online teaching. And one of the things actually that I want to comment on is yes, we want to be cautious about the assessment, and we need to know things about assessment, considering the online assessment and things like that. But one of the main things that we really forgot, that we were very happy of having the online and having the online teaching and the interactivity, but we forgot that these students are missing university life. And university is not only that you are only having lessons, studying your lessons and so on. One of the main things considering university is that students are meeting together, they're having their own activities, and this is something that they missed. And we need all the time to put into our consideration that these things we need to do something, because psychologically and socially, this is not right. You know what I mean? The hybrid is okay, but the hybrid until now, it's only considered also with lectures, either online or face-to-face, but we don't find any activities. And university actually is linked to activities. Thank you very much.
Okay. Then Dr. Debashish, now you can just
Mahmoud,
summarize, and Dr. Mahmoud is going to comment.
Have I chance to ask a question?
Mahendra, yes, you are. You're
Yeah,
audible. You can talk if you want.
I am from Sri Lanka. Thank you for that Professor Frida for giving me this fine opportunity. And I don't like to say big things. I send that already my the PhD proposal also. I send my link that offline and online education system, any situation we can use for that to the practically this experiment research. I already sent all that participants. That's enough, Professor. I'll stop my conversation. Thanks. Are you okay?
Yeah, we heard you. Thank you, Dr. Mahendra. Now,
Okay.
Dr. Debashish, please conclude.
I have
Just
contributed
summarize.
already that this is a very useful session and this is a very topical thing. In fact, I have already proposed that you should continue this study and can try from your end if your university or the scholars together you can collect the studies that has been done on COVID-19, how it is affecting teaching, learning, and that is very important, how it is affecting the life of media. So there could be different chapters, and that could be a kind of an anthology that you can publish, and that would be a real success of your conference, that if you can do that. This conference has been done during COVID period in an online platform. So what are the papers that is coming that relates to COVID-19 or that relates to the change that is happening in online teaching, in media scenario? And these are very important issues. And if you can plan like this, all the scholars who have joined this conference, if they can contribute to the effort that the university has made, and then it can enrich the really the initiative taken by this university. And I would love to see this as a book, as an anthology or an edited publication. So all of your papers, you refine it, modify it, make it final versions in the Word document. This is my suggestion up to the dean and up to the faculty of the things. But I'm really interested to prove to the world that the universities in the developing countries are really working in a very positive manner. They are responding from academic point of view, and they are contributing. So this book would be very valuable and your contributions will be memorable. Otherwise, this conference, these presentations will be only part of your CV. That is not the end of the world. What is more important is that during COVID-19, we are all together, and what this song is important, that song, we are not alone, okay? We are not alone, we are not alone. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. So we shall overcome the threat of Corona. But during this Corona threat, how we scholars, how we faculty members, how the students have escaped this wrath of Corona, that's a wonderful experience. Maybe 5 years after, this period could be a storytelling factor for our next generation. So you please think of my suggestion. As a moderator of this session, I'm very much curious to listen to you. I'm very happy to listen to all of you. The South African experience, then the experience of Horn of Africa.
Hello, could you hear me?
That's enough. So I think I have explicitly told my expectation.
Yes, Dr. Magda.
Call for you. Thank you. Wonderful afternoon. And it's in India afternoon. It must be morning there.
Morning.
So really, I'm very happy and glad to be with all of you. Hope we'll meet again and I can see all of my colleagues again. So now I feel we have become, by participating in your sessions, we are becoming gradually colleagues. So thank you all. Heartiest congratulations for your presentation. There is no end of refinement, so go ahead. So that's it, okay? That's how I...
Dr. Fida.
Yes, Dr. Magda.
Thank you to all
okay,
of you.
thank you. Can I speak now?
Yeah. Dr. Debashish just ended his speech.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I just joined lately and there is a, trouble, focusing because I'm on the go, I'm on a bus. So I hear a little bit here and there, but I think this is a very courageous topic that you have taken, you know, COVID-19 and in the media. And I just wonder they have the initiative here to cover it in a study. I wish we can follow furthermore, not only newspapers' participations and the rest of the media, but what I'm wondering about is where do we go from here? You know, this is such a big issue because we are living the experience. It's a live experience, you know. And if somebody can join and just give us an answer just to pick up, I would be grateful. Thank you. This is Magda Bagnit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Magda, for the short speech.
Thank you.
Dr. Mahmoud. Thank you, Marie. Dr. Mahmoud.
Thanks. At the end, let me thank Ms. Professor Debashish Kraala for this wise moderation and all the participants for their papers. I have few points to say at the end. The first, in this session, we observed some experiences from two similar media systems to us, Indian media system and South African media system about the impact of COVID-19 on some aspects of media economics, media people, media freedom, media education and media development. Second, the result of these papers agreed with other research in other papers made in the world, but each media system uniqueness had its impact on the mechanism and the result of the response to the COVID-19. Three, these papers, as Professor Debashish said, must be linked to the media system, theoretical approaches, and then reanalyzed and give us new conclusions and new recommendations. Four, there is a big need for us to make comparative studies about how the global media systems respond to the COVID-19 pressures in the States, in Western Europe, in China, in Australia, and then we can come to some global recommendation. We need also to study the future of media among these pressures. Finally, in Egypt, we have to do something. The first, the situation in the media is the same. The media system suffered from lockdown economically, but the government backed the national and the broadcasting stations for the well-being and for online education. We adopted the, as Professor Ines said, a hybrid system that combines the traditional learning and the online learning. In Cairo University last semester, we upload about 700 courses online, and the response was good. And we benefited from all the negative aspects and the positive aspects of this. Thanks for all the participants. Thanks for Professor Ines Abu Yusuf, the Dean, Professor Amal Said, the Vice Dean, and Dr. Fida, the organizer. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot,
Dr. Fida, would you
Dr.
please
Ines.
let me? Yes,
Sure.
I just want, I'm very sorry I couldn't, I just catch up late, but I really want to welcome you all, especially my professor, Professor Mahmoud Alamuddin, and thank you very much, sir, for accepting to be the chairman. Thank for all the researchers for their unique and really very important researches that they have presented. And also Dr. Patashis, I wanted to thank him myself. He is now our guest in so many events, and this is a very important thing, as I said yesterday, to open up to other schools in media and journalism. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your inputs as well. Thank you, Fida.
Thank you, Dr. Ines, very much. And we are going now to get ready to the second session, challenges facing traditional journalism fading on new formats. So Dr. Khadija is trying to reconnect. I just want to make sure that all the participants are there. Dr. Felix, yes, he is here. Dr. Shola.
So now, Dr. Mahmoud, allow me to leave, okay? Because I have some university work, and it is wonderful listening to you. Very, very thoughtful ideas you have given. I support this university from your end so that they can really go forward. I'm very, very happy to see you. Thank you, Fida. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. The
Let me,
lovely.
say, let me say hi to my friend, Dr.
Yes.
Dipashi, before leaving.
Yes.
It's nice seeing you.
Yeah, it's nice. I was in Eritrea for your information. Okay.
Yeah.
In the year 2001 to 2004, I was the head of the Department of University of Asmara. So believe me, I was also in the University of Addis Ababa. So I know Horn of Africa. Okay. So
Yeah, thank you
that's
very
it.
much.
Okay? So anyway, it's lovely to see you here. So give my greetings to anybody who know in University of Asmara, though the name has changed now. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Fida. It is wonderful. You people are organizing under the constraints such things, but think of the book and take the support of the dean and others. So if you can do that, it's a permanent milestone after your conference. And this is a this is really a serious topic. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you.
My Asmara days, okay? And so I miss my scholar days. I miss my days with my scholar, Dr. Tasha. So many things you see. It's a lovely occasion to reunite all of you. Okay, thank you. So allow
Thank
me
you,
to.
Professor. Thank you very much for your for everything, for your support and moderation. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to introduce Dr. Dina Farou Abu Zaid. She's a professor, Egyptian professor in Mass Communication Department, Faculty of Arts, Ain Shams University in Egypt. She received her BA at 1996 and MA in 2001, both from Mass Communication Department at the American University in Cairo. She received her PhD at 2007 with honor from Mass Communication Department, Faculty of Arts, Ain Shams University. She is the author of Television Presenter Skills. She is a supervisor of many master's and PhD theses. She is the head of the Social Studies and Futuristic Studies branch in the Middle East Studies Center, Ain Shams University, from 2017 till 2018. She worked as a television presenter in the Egyptian television and as a reporter in the news sector in the Egyptian Radio and Television Union. And let me also reintroduce Professor Khadija Bibi Khan. Khadija Bibi Khan is a full professor in the Department of Communication Science at the University of South Africa. She received her Lid et al. PHIL, I think it's philosophy, from the Department of English Studies at UNISA in the field of popular culture. Her main areas of research interest are the intersections between popular culture, literary studies, genocide studies, and mainstream media. She has published articles and chapters in South African and international journals on hip-hop, film, genocide, and literature. Both of them are really amazing to read more about. So let me welcome both of them and welcome the session to start. Please, Professor Dina, you can unmute and start the session. Dr. Khadija is with you.
Dr. Dina, you welcome with us.
Hello.
I'm Salwa. Dr. Dina, welcome us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dina Farou Abu Zaid, professor in Mass Communication Department, Faculty of Arts, Ain Shams University. I will be a session, challenges facing traditional journalism, fading or new formats. But first, I would like to thank Dr. University, Dr. Amal Sayed, Vice Dean, and all the organizers of the conference for these great and interesting sessions and speakers. This session will run from 11:50 until 1:20 p.m. Cairo time. I hope it's not too early or too late for our non-Egyptian speakers. Professor Khadija Bibi Khan, professor in the Department of Communication Science at the University of South Africa, will be our moderator. There will be 6 presentations about very important and interesting topics, including space science, visual representation of climate change in newspapers, online journalism, journalist safety during coronavirus, women's sports journalism, and fatigue communication. And our speakers are from different academic institutions in Nigeria, India, Egypt, and Iran. Now, I would like to hand over to Professor Khadija Bibi Khan, our moderator, who will introduce the speakers.
Hello, once again. So as to save time, let me ask our first speaker, Dr. Felix Ale from Nigeria to present to us his presentation, Space Science Technology, unveiling the catalytic role of the media and its potentials to mankind. Dr. Felix, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I want to sincerely thank the organizers for this historic event and for inviting me to deliver this paper. Because of time, I will run through my presentation, which is somehow technical, but you can get detailed analysis of my paper, much later. The topic of my presentation is space technology, unveiling the catalytic role of the press and its potential to mankind. The table of contents, I will go to the introduction, the media dynamism in the space race, space technology and modern world, which is a global perspective, then Africa in space, and the role of the media. Then my conclusion. We live in a restless planet that is geographically too vast and diverse for human understanding. Yet our curiosity and interest to fully understand the Earth environment in which we live have continued to grow. Through the ages of research, man has been able to unravel the science of Earth's solid outer shell and liquid or mobile inner core, the ever-changing interplay of the variety of natural phenomena ranging from landscapes brought about by earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, and hurricanes, all of which are of daily interest and concern to the world's inhabitants. However, one may be tempted to believe that the dynamism and intricacies of the Earth have brought into focus the submission of Socrates that man must rise above the Earth to the top of the atmosphere and beyond, for only then will he fully understand the world in which he lives. To Socrates, the Earth holds an enormous potential for human survival and requires much more understanding, both in terms of the development and management of resources, as well as the monitoring and management of its environment. Socrates' dream of vision became a reality when the first satellite, codenamed Sputnik 1, was launched into space by Soviet Union on 4th October 1957. Satellite could be best described as new eyes in space to see and understand the world better. It helps to improve the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. It also helps to avert famine and other natural disasters and can be used to locate mineral resources in the soil, as well as lost ancient cities. Above all, it has greatly assisted in making the society much better and conducive for humanity. In our quest for better life on Earth, space scientists and engineers have been able to transcend beyond the terrestrial and find home in space, which is the extraterrestrial, setting up a variety of satellites and even transit above known as the International Space Station in the space. The International Space Station was set up by the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, in collaboration with the European Space Agency and Japan European Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA. It was therefore be emphasized that space technology could save our world, figuratively and literally. Hence, it is no longer a luxury, but indeed a necessity for all. Then media dynamism in the space race. The main thrust of this paper is the catalytic role of the press in the global space race, which reaffirms the unique functions of the press as a powerful tool in any society. It is indeed an undisputable fact that journalism plays an important role in the development of space technology in global history. This started with near-real reporting on the various Cold War and other related events. Journalists were instrumental in propagating the space age that was marked by intense space technology competition between the United States and the Soviet Union. The famous launch of the Sputnik satellite marked the beginning of the space race that saw rapid technological development in the various parts of the world. The United States felt threatened by Sputnik and made the necessary steps to counter the threat. But while the United States was trying to neutralize the effects of Sputnik, they realized new space frontier that could be explored. And in 1969, the United States pioneered the course of history to become the first country in the world to send astronauts to the moon. This development caused media frenzy of its kind in the United States and many other countries in the world. Besides, the space race led to developments of various space-related technologies, such as rocketry, that have found use with military for missiles, missile launch, and civil transportation to space. All these developments were promoted by media reports and analysis of the various events as they unfold. Therefore, space journalism remains a strategic part of the media that has played a very crucial role in global affairs, and its noble contribution in the promotion of space science and technology will continue to loom large in human history, particularly in the realm of technological revolution across the globe. While there are many technological developments that have emerged from war, which have been adopted for civil use, space technology stands out as one of the post-Second World War technology that has been shaped through journalism. The space age was no doubt ushered by the Cold War era, but one fundamental point is the fact that the media spoiled it through reporting and analysis on the tussle between the United States and the then Western Union, the then Soviet Union. The reports by the media on the space capabilities of each side led to the drive for nations to develop their space capabilities, hence the advent of space journalism in media practice. It is pertinent to note that the greatest contribution of the media in the development of space science was the focus on the technology, while the United States and the Soviet Union were focusing on the need to become the first to. The media was reporting on how the space technologies were evolving. The space development turned into some kind of contest, with journalists reporting on every new development and innovation. And for the American journalists, the driving factor was that the Soviets were winning the space battle, hence the advancement in technology and space exploration that we see today can be attributed to the attempts by the United States to catch up with the Soviet Union. Then I now go to space technology and the modern world. I will just summarize that because of time. I will start by saying that space activities, more than anything else, help to foster the belief that a unified humanity can achieve anything for the benefit of all. One cannot think of a better example of unity than the first landing on the moon. Millions of people across the globe watched Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, declaring this in quote as a great leap for mankind, unquote. Everyone must have felt proud that human beings could achieve the unthinkable. The moon, once a subject of speculation, was now within man's grasp. As human race is evolving, it is becoming evident that unity is the only way to exceed limited capabilities, while space exploration has the potential to unify humanity in order to overcome societal problems as well as transform noble dreams into reality. Then I will talk briefly about Nigerian activities in space. With the success story recorded so far by Nigeria, the country is regarded as taking the lead, in the area of space science and technology. Nigeria currently has 2 Earth observations, in the orbit, satellites in the orbit, and also a communication satellite. And the Nigeria venture into space is not a mere adventure or coincidence, but in pursuit of a new strategies and solutions to human problems in order to enhance the quality of life of the people, particularly the common man. Such ventures include the way we manage our resources and environment as well as our social life. It was indeed a deliberate effort on the part of the federal government of Nigeria to tackle numerous socio-economic problems facing the nation through the application of space science and technology. In the framework of the implementation of the Nigerian space agenda, A multi-institutional approach was adopted, and the relevant institutional frameworks were put in place to fulfill Nigeria's vision in the various capacities. Like many societies of the world, Nigeria is currently on the threshold of history on the initiatives and development agenda that will continue to address problems of poverty, wealth creation, food security, national security, sustainable development and protection from natural and man-induced disasters. Space technology remains the key to the realization of this objective as it guarantees the availability and speedy access to real-time data and geospatial information for planning and decision-making. And in this endeavor, the Nigerian press remains a critical stakeholder in the actualization of this objective. Through
Dr.
this space,
Ale?
yeah, I'm here.
Summarizing.
Okay, let me go to the conclusion now.
Where is the conclusion now?
Okay, so let me go to the
This
conclusion.
one? Okay, please.
Yeah, distinguished participants, it is now clear and direct that space technology has become a fundamental key and solution to problems as well as a veritable tool for rapid development across the globe. It is not surprising, therefore, that various and innumerable local and international fora are today being devoted to the social impacts and benefits of space technology as experts of the view that space technology is fast becoming the changing global community, changing global community and altering the patterns of business and the society. The technology is a raising obstacles to effectively that what seems impossible to one generation becomes elementary to the next, whether we like it or not. The world of space science and technology will continue to engender stability and reveal power of knowledge and ideas to inspire young people and stimulate technical and commercial innovation on Earth. And in Africa, I think the time is now for us as a people to take our destiny in our own hands. The African space agenda is real, and it is indeed a noble goal and a new song in our continent. The African press should not only join in singing this song through collective support, but the new song should be seen as a good story to tell about the great people of Africa, particularly in a strategic approach for development and relevance in the community of nations. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ale, thank you for a very informative, very interesting paper that you presented on space technology and space in the media.
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
we would, yeah, I think instead of losing track, we would ask any of the participants if they would like to ask you any questions. Questions for Dr. Ale? I think they're overwhelmed with all this new information. I mean, I was also quite interested. I was like sort of glued looking at your present. I think they're just overwhelmed and they're digesting what you said. But okay, they can always contact you again. Let's move to the second speaker, Shola Lohit and Dr. S. Dinesh Babu, and the title of their presentation is A Study on the Importance of Visual Representation of Climate Change in the Newspaper Medium in India. The floor is yours, guys.
Ma'am, I'm sharing the screen.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, thank you for the opportunity for taking me to the session. So I'm starting with the presentation. My topic is the study of importance of visual representation on climate change in the newspaper medium in India. Okay. The climate change refers to the significant long-term change in global climate. It has various effects such as rising sea level, melting ice, disrupted rainfall patterns, heat waves, and droughts across the globe. Scientific knowledge on climate change need to be imparted to the general public with no scientific backup in order to have an effective management and mitigation of this issue. Media plays the role in effective communication of such complex subjects in layman's language. Using visual as tool to grab quick attention of the audience and emotionally connect with the audience makes the climate change more and more engaging. The purpose of this paper is to study the importance of visual representation on climate change in the newspaper medium in India. The objectives are such that to identify the characteristics of visual element being used in the climate change news, to analyze the visual content of recent climate change coverage in English newspapers, to explore the audience perception to the usage of visual cues in the climate change communication. And my hypothesis is visual representation in Indian newspaper does not adequately project the climate change and other environmental issues. The climate change visual representation help the people to understand the climate change and its impact more effectively. So my methodology is like I took 500 news articles from three mainstream English newspapers, Hindu, Indian Express, and Times of India from 2018 January to December 2019, and I analyzed its contents based on like in the aspects like visualization, content category, visual orientation based on geographical area, orientation based on content. And also an online survey was conducted among 100 people to understand their approach to the visual cues in the media on climate change. And coming to analysis part, 95% of visual cues were photos, and only 2% were infographics and illustrations. These are some of the examples they used in newspaper: photograph, illustration, and infographic. Only the Hindu newspaper carried an cartoon series on weekly basis. It mainly deal with the climate change and our approach to the environmental issues. Then in analysis category of content, 25% were feature stories, 19% action inducing stories, 10% were studies, and 26% were impact studies, 20% were awareness based stories. 75% of the news articles dealt with non-climatic change news, particularly like that focused on other aspects of environmental issues, and only 25% focused on climate change news. Then in online survey, only the major questions is discussing now. The first question was, does your newspaper have a regular coverage of climate change news? Only 14% of people were unsure about the fact that whether their newspaper is covering the climate change. Then 96% of people think and there is a need to be there is a need for environmental news to be covered, but 99% of people take an effort, rarely, frequently, or often, to understand the science of climate change and the other aspects of climate change. Then 65% of people think that there is no adequate coverage of the climate change news and other environmental topic in the newspaper. And for 96% of people think that have felt the intensity of climate change by seeing visual elements in the newspaper. Then the distribution of distribution of visual elements is such that 26% were infographics, 20% illustration, 49% of photographs, and only the rest is in maps. Then 81% were more attracted by visual elements rather than text. Then while flipping through the newspaper, 90% of people were persuaded to go through the news while flipping through the papers. Then only 13% preferred understanding the climate change by reading the textual content. Coming to the results and conclusion, majority of people feel it is important to cover environment and other climate change issues by media, but there is no adequate coverage in the media. 81% are influenced by the visual representation over textual content in newspaper. Most respondents preferred understanding climate change by visual content over the text. Content analysis of visual cues revealed by the usage of visual is evoking interest of people to climate change news. Possibilities of the visual elements like illustration, infographics, graphs, charts, and cartoons has not been effectively explored by the communication in newspapers. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shola, for a very interesting presentation again. Second up, it's quite I enjoyed it. And for those of you, just for us to recap, she spoke about using 3 mainstream newspapers and their visual representation of climate change. I now open the floor from the participants to ask her any questions.
We received a question for Dr. Felix after we closed it.
Yes, we will ask them if they have anything for you, Dr. Ale, and then
there is a question that said, can you throw more light on space technology and digital switch over?
Where did you see that?
It was in the chat box. It was sent to me privately.
Ah, okay.
From Peter, Dr. Peter Ogondo, if he wants to say it loud.
Okay, come again. What was the question again?
Can you throw more light on space technology and digital switch over?
Okay. Yeah, like I said in my paper, well, everything across the globe now revolve around space science and technology. There is nothing you do now that doesn't have what we call space connotation. And the best approach to fast-track development in any part of the world is through the application of space science and technology. So the time is now for us to realize this part and not to look at space science and technology as being abstract. And to us in the press, when you mention space science and technology, it's like, talking about something that does not exist in our society. And when you go into the history, you will realize that the role the media played, in the progress recorded so far in the area of space science and technology is just very, very significant. And that is why, for any space program to be successful, the press must be considered as a critical stakeholder. If the press is not carried along, there is no way, we can make that progress. Because the society believes that even the problems on ground have not been solved while going to the space. So it is a responsibility in the media to keep telling the general public that the best way to solve the problem on ground is from space. It's just like, you finding yourself in an, elevated position, or maybe if you are, for example, if you are, use a layman example, if you are on a 20-story building, there is the tendency for you to have the panoramic view of the environment than somebody on ground. So if you want to provide solution on the problem of ground, it is better solved from space. So even the issue of digitalization, is a strategic method to fast-track development, in the society. And these are products of space science and technology. Even the social media we are talking about. So a lot of things going on in different sectors. In the area of education, we have tele-education now. Now we are communicating. We are holding this conference. When you look at the strategy, what it brings into being, the technology we are using today is space science and technology. So you can see that space has been able to, revolutionize the global community. So, and when you talk of telemedicine, from here in Nigeria, I can diagnose a patient right away in Egypt, or even the remote parts of Egypt. So I can tell you that space science and technology has become part and parcel of us. And then when you look at what, space science and technology, was able to actualize, especially during this COVID period, you discover that without space science and technology, we will all be in darkness. So space science and technology is very, very crucial to our society. And the time is now for us to realize this. And the time is now for us to realize as, media, as journalists, and we should keep on, projecting it so that developing nations can key into it. I thank God for the progress we are making in Africa, but we still have a lot to do to educate a lot of countries in Africa so that they can key into space program. They don't need to have satellites in the orbit. There are different ways they can key into the space program. For example, Nigeria, as a space agency, is a member of disaster monitoring constellation. If there is any disaster today in any part of the world, we can track it. If our satellite is not there, we can track it and we can get a lot of data. And through our activities, we have been able to support a lot of developed countries. When the Hurricane Katrina happened in the United States, the Nigerian satellite, codenamed Nigeria Sat-1, was the only satellite in that corridor. And we're able to make data available to the United States government. So I want to tell you, distinguished participants, that space science and technology is very, very strategic to our society, and we should do the best we can to support this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ale. Any questions for Ms. Lohit, Dr. Lohit? Any questions from anybody? They'll probably come back.
Yes,
all
exactly.
Right, let's go with I'm looking at time because we're looking at 15:15 and we're supposed to end our session at 20:50. The next speakers that we have are Titus Bandiyopadhyay and K. Madhuvichika. And the title of the presentation is Redefining News in the Age of Internet, the Second Form of News.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. I am presenting my screen. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. We extend our sincere gratitude to the entire team of Aram Canadian University for organizing this esteemed conference. And here we are presenting our working paper on redefining news in the age of the internet, the second form of news. This paper will address the need to redefine news, especially when we are in the age of advanced electromagnetism characterized by time and speed. Right now, information is distributed, shared, and retrieved among everybody almost at a speed of thought. Information has been equated with our senses. Information is power. And with this power comes responsibility. So one such responsible form of information is news. It travels across the globe. It impacts people. It shapes culture. It makes history, and so on. And any piece of information that obeys the news values of Galton and Rouge is considered as news. Now, traditionally, we know that there are two main categories of news. One is hard and one is soft. Hard being the kind of informative type, a serious type, whereas soft news being featured opinionated articles. However, in this paper, we have researched, our research shows that actually a second form of news is also coming into the society, that is called, and we have named that as reaction. In normal terms, reactions are any kind of responses, okay? And the virtual, whatever is the news, the virtual physical expression of the individuals triggering with that parent news is basically reaction. This reactions, eventually it becomes news also. And one of the most important factor of reaction being it is always attached to a parent's news. And thereby reactions are the second form of news. Here we have structured a model, though this is a working paper, we are looking, there may be a lot of flaws and we will be addressing that. So this is how exactly a news structures, okay? It starts with information, if you can see here in the circle. This is the source of origin of the news. Hereby, it becomes, the same information becomes news. From news, reaction starts over. Reaction becomes news and news can also triggers reaction. and reactions caters to both hard and soft news. Now, this is an example. Like if you can see on the top, this is a hard news. Hereby, this slide shows that how reaction is catering to both hard and soft news. The first picture, if you can see here, this is a hardcore hard news. And the second picture, it is about Philadelphia police shooting of black man sparks unrest. So it is a physical reaction. The sparking, the black man sparking unrest is a physical reaction of a hard news, which is the parent news, that Philadelphia police shooting. That was the main news on which this reaction came over. On this side, we have this soft news. As you can see, we all know what soft news is. And hereby, there is another news, which is a reaction on a soft news. The news being, why 1,000 watch these guys riding bikes, which means this is a kind of a road trip article and a reactionary article on road trips. So this is a kind of reaction we are getting from soft news. Now coming to elements of reaction. Elements of reaction is kind of the same elements of news. It will have a source. It will have opinion. Opinion will be coming out to the medium as an expression. Now there is a difference between opinion and expression. Opinion is the mental understanding of any news. Now with that understanding, any audience may choose to become passive or may choose to become reactive. Whenever it is a reactive, it is becoming expression over the internet. Now we are going to types of reaction. As we said that reactions are kind of responses. These are various responses we can see here. But here I would like to mention Manuel Castell's mass self-communication. Manuel Castells actually say that we are now in the age where the need of being heard is very important, and that's why platforms or like digital media is thriving, because we need to express our opinions, and thereby this urge of being heard is very much in us right now. And that's why Manuel Castells said this kind of interaction as a mass self-communication. From here onwards, I would request my co-author Vichika to take over. Vichika, if you're here.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in the types of reaction, the first response as a reaction, every news story, it triggers a response in individuals. These responses, it could be either from the elite sources or from the individual public. These responses can impact the society. So reaction as a response would act as a trigger impacting the society. And opinions, reaction as opinions, they could be answers, backlash, reply, criticism, suggestion, feeling, and all the others. An example of this would be Kobe Bryant's wife expressing her feelings on NBA winning the final match. So that is an opinion that can be categorized as an opinionated reaction. And trigger, or any news story, it can act as a trigger to taking an action. It could be either a physical or a virtual action where you respond by where you respond by taking an action by moving out. So that is how it helps. And reaction and news story, they are mutually popularizing each other based on the sensationalism. If the news story is sensationalized enough, it gets popularized by the reaction. And there are certain reactions which are only surfaced over online medium and nowhere else, so those reactions can be categorized under online medium. And yeah, so news has always generated a response. It will, I mean, it isn't like it is recently we are seeing the trend of reactions. Reactions are becoming more prominent now, but they always existed. In the case of print media, although the reactions didn't surface on the newspaper as much as it is being surfaced in radio and television, they did exist. But in the case of radio and television, there are three kinds of reactions that we've noticed. One is quoting reaction, direct reaction, and scrolling reaction. Quoting reaction is when the media quotes the reaction of a certain person or a group, and it's a very indirect action. While direct reactions, they are live telecasted. They are taken as news bites of the reactions. And scrolling reactions are when the reactions are scrolled as in the form of news stickers in television. In the case of online media, reactions are virtual expressions. They are form of they are they are the interactive communication that we tend to choose. Factors affecting reaction in the case of digital news: speed and time. We have an unlimited amount of space over internet, so we have this urge to seek more information. This information, because of this urge, we tend to seek more news, and the news, I mean, we like to seek news at every second of our time. So the reactions and the news stories, they tend to be fast compared to traditional medium, and yeah, they tend to be fast. And ICT, the storage, retrieval, and distribution of information has it has availed it for us, so that influences reaction over digital medium. Stereotype: we tend to look at news stories based on our own preconceived notions. So these preconceived notions are what the triggering agents to our reactions. And free wholesaler of news, the internet is accessible to everyone. That explains the other point too. And not just that, it also creates a medium where you can, where the news can be easily viewed by anyone, either by journalists or by the public. You don't have to go to a separate news agency or buy a newspaper to read the news. It's available to everyone. And identity: we tend to seek validation to our opinions. We tend to voice out our opinions over internet. And news desk journalism, it creates a room for journalists because of this urge to seek more information at every second of our time. We you cannot go out, I mean, you still go out to collect the news stories, but comparatively we can find that collecting news stories over online mediums like Twitter or TikTok is also gaining prominence. So that is it. These affect reaction. Reaction news values: immediacy and short-lived news stories. We've always known that these affect the news stories, what becomes news and what doesn't. But there is also another element: every reaction story is attached to a parent news. Every reaction should also be popularized. The news story should be popularized, and the reaction should also be popularized. And there is always interactivity that is generated over all online social media and everything that popularizes this reaction and also gives it a polycentral and multiplied view of consumption of news and interaction of news. So this is how we've categorized reactions, I mean information. We are saying that over time, time and information are the influencing factors that keep on building the news over time. I mean, this over time, we the news keeps on getting added, it piles up, and this can have a stoppage point at any point of time, but if it doesn't, then it will keep on growing unless we lose interest and if we or the news stops. Next, yeah. So for this, our research methodology, we focused on 15 news websites, 5 national, 5 international, and 5 mobile news app data to be precise. And we've designed this observation based on the first view of the web page. So whatever news stories emerged on the first view of the web page, we tend to be focused on it, and we observe this data for 10 consecutive days. Based on the first view, we've categorized the news elements and the reaction news elements separately. And from this observation, we found out that in the national news portals, we found that there is 7% reaction news stories that are coming out and 93% normal news stories, while international has 2.5% reaction news stories, while 97.55% of news stories, and mobile app data almost has 10% reaction news stories. We tend to see 10% reaction news stories every day in a week, and 90% normal news stories. So, and from this, we've also found that there is a gradual rise in reaction news stories in the middle of the week in national news websites, like in the news websites in India, and the reaction news stories also decline by the weekends. there was a time where we didn't find a single reaction news story on one particular weekend. Like I think in a particular newspaper, it should be New Indian Express or something. But in the case of international and mobile news apps, it maintained a consistency of 2% and 11% of reaction news elements throughout the week. So we found 2% and 11% reaction news stories in these websites. So based on this, we found that the element of reaction is already established in the news stories, although it isn't as prominent as it is we expected it to be. And I think we predict that the percentage of reaction rises up in the time. So since ours is a working paper, we are interested to find out what the results will be. Thank you.
Again, we would like to say thank you to Titus.
Thank you, ma'am.
And your colleague for presenting to us also another interesting paper on in this age of internet and the reaction to this news called the second form of news. Quite interesting. And I'm sure the final outcome or the final paper would be quite interesting as well. Again, we open the floor to our participants if they would like to ask any questions to them. Yeah.
It is in the chat box. You can find it. It's for everyone.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We actually, yes. Did you go into the reason for decline in reaction? Actually, we have certain theories, sir, but we have to test it. Since this is a working paper, we have just come up with this concept of reaction, and now we'll be working on it to, expand it more. But yes, we do have certain theories that why it actually declines in the, weekends, but we cannot assert it right now because we do not have enough data to assert. So you have to give us time to answer that question with full authenticity.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. It is there in the paper itself. The finding which you're asking about, we have it in the paper. I mean, everything, every data and everything. Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Okay, let us continue. Our next speaker is Unam Umar Maheshwari, and Unam is going to be speaking on the darker side of journalism.
No, we have, but before Unam, we have one, media policies to protect journalists.
Oh, I probably have the old agenda.
Okay, the media policies to protect journalists from the corona pandemic, an applied study on a sample of Egyptian and international media organizations. This is Dr. Hanan El-Gindi.
Doctor?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today. Hello.
Hi.
Fida, would you please sharing my presentation, please?
Sure, doctor. Just a second.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today with such respectable participants coming all over the world to participate in my beloved Ahram Canadian University. I have a special thanks to Dr. Ines Abiyousef, our Dean, and Dr. Amal, our Vice Dean, Dr. Fida, who organized this promising conference, especially in such strange and hard times because of COVID-19. Let's give another special thanks to the academic participating in this session and the distinguished moderators. Let me say first that the pandemic requires all of us to work together and keep sharing knowledge, communicate together to help our countries to minimize the impact of the current unpleasant situation. Well, my research title is Media Policies to Protect Journalists from COVID-19 Pandemic. It's a comparative study on the Egyptian and international media houses or outlets. My research aim is to shed a light on the challenges facing journalists around the world due to COVID-19 pandemic. The research will try to identify the Egyptian and the international media policies implementation to protect journalists' lives, whether these threats are from inside media houses or outside during the field coverage. The objective of the study, the research will highlight differences and similarities between the Egyptian media and the international media outlets in the implementation of quality standards of health and safety issues. The study also will draw a comparison between the Egyptian and the international media outlets in order to examine the degree of commitment to protect journalists during their assignments. The significance of this study is it will be the one of the academic research that will focus on the impact of COVID-19 on the Egyptian media. The research also will produce a guide, a booklet for the Egyptian journalists to address them with health and safety standards to cover pandemics. The methodology of my I adapt for my this research. I will adapt this research will adapt a qualitative approach of two methods. First, the in-depth interviews with editors-in-chief from Egyptian and international media outlets. Second, is the questionnaire form with Egyptian and international journalists. And to be short, let me present some of the in-depth interviews I conducted with the Egyptian and international editor-in-chief to reveal the truth about the effect of COVID-19 on the safety of the journalists in Egypt and outside globally. First, with Nabil Shubashi, the director of France 24 service, Arabic service channel. He said that inside France 24 building, we have a health center for journalists to face COVID-19. This office appeared to give periodic instructions to France 24 journalists. And he said that he can sum the safety procedures in the following points. He said nobody can enter the channel without, or the building, without wearing masks. We have attention to social distancing between the computer and another, between colleagues. And he also said that coverage of important thing, that coverage of France 24 was affected during the COVID-19 attack because they relied and in many other outlets, not France 24 especially, but they are relied on Skype and Zoom programs, which are characterized by poor images and capabilities. But instead of that, there is a network, there is a good network of correspondence spreading around the world for the service of France 24. And he said that we have daily satellization of the editorial hall, studios, and media tools. And finally, he said, we reduce working days for editors-in-chief from 5 to 3 days, and journalists have a right to work from home. Moving to another international media outlet, which is the BBC. Safa Faisal, the head of BBC Cairo office, former head, BBC head office, said that BBC completely moved away from field coverage during COVID-19 pandemic in order to save their journalists' lives. And she said we relied more on Skype interviews. Many programs are recorded and conducted from inside the journalists' homes or houses, and those who should attend are only two each in each large studio, one only in small studios. Alcohol bottles are spread everywhere in newsrooms, in the kitchens, and everywhere in the building. The BBC has implemented many protection measures, such as the social distancing, using masks inside the closed places, no guest from outside the building, measuring the temperature when entering the building is a must. And she said that in the BBC building, our headquarters, there is a lot of signs, warning signs everywhere, hanging on the walls. And this is a sample of these signs. It's spreading everywhere, beside the elevators, in the newsrooms, in the studios, everywhere, to warn the journalists how to prevent the infection from the COVID-19. Moving to the Egyptian side, the head of the syndicate, of the Egyptian syndicate, Dia Rashwan, said in the in-depth interview that despite of the Egyptian journalist syndicate intensive measures, we faced a lot of losses. We lost 2 colleagues, and there are dozens are infected. However, the syndicate has taken great measures, including providing free treatment to 12,000 journalists and their families as well. They also the Egyptian journalist syndicate providing sterilization tools available in low prices, and the syndicate also implemented a necessity procedures by applying social distancing measures inside the editorial newsrooms in all the Egyptian media outlets and newsrooms, and the sterilizing buildings. We sterilizing buildings daily. He also said that journalists can work from homes, and we can move to the Egyptian Radio and Television Union. It's a governmental channel, and Manal Tiftar, the director of the news sector, said that unfortunately we lost number of colleagues during the pandemic, and there is a dozens of the journalists inside the television infected by the coronavirus, and the Egyptian TV has taken many preventive measures to protect journalists, including placing sterilization gates outside the building, sterilization newsrooms, and wearing masks. She said we also implemented social distancing and set guide signs, but unfortunately now the sense of danger has receded, and no one cares about the protection, unfortunately. I will end my presentation with the limitation of the research, of my research. The research carried out during these strange times, where not only journalists but academic and researchers are facing huge challenges. Journalism researchers not only facing limitation of resources, finance, and other social elements to produce high quality of journalism, but also the absence of human interaction between researchers and research participants. Thank you very much. Very glad to hear your question.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Gandhi. It was actually very refreshing. Just looking at journalists, and quite an important topic too. A very important topic too during this pandemic, because that's where we're getting our news from. They're the most important source. So once again, thank you for your presentation entitled Media Policies to Protect Journalists from the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that we open the floor to any questions that you might want to direct to Hanan.
All of them are in the chat box congratulating her.
Yes, they said it's very important, it's very significant. I'm just seeing them coming up. Yes. So hopefully we're going to get a chance to read the final article that you publish.
I hope so.
Okay, so
hello,
we have
I have a question for Hannah.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Felix.
Yeah, can Hannah tell us too how the family of journalists could be protected, during this COVID-19
Yes.
crisis?
The Egyptian syndicate made a lot of things to prevent the infections for the journalists and also their families. We have solidarity, in the Egyptians, in the Egyptian syndicate, Egyptian journalist syndicate, and they. I face a lot of troubles with my family, and my brother feels that he had infected by COVID-19, but I headed to my syndicate and they give me a lot of insurance, and without money we made the tests.
Okay.
In the Egyptian syndicate, we are 12,000 journalists, and what happened during the pandemic is totally pleasant. Everyone helped his colleagues, and we have a center for the health center. We have center for the health insurance, and they are on for everyone need anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
That's excellent. What the syndicate is doing is quite excellent, providing the protection that the journalists and their families need.
We are lucky. Yes.
Yes. All right. If there's no more questions, let's go with Unam Uma Maheshwari, and the title of her presentation is "The Darker Side of Journalism."
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
You may go ahead.
Yeah.
Uma, you are going to share it on your side, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My research paper is about darker side of journalism. So, this paper is about the unseen difficulties and challenges.
It's not there, Uma. Sorry for interrupting, but it's not there. It's not shared.
Oh. Oh, let me check.
Okay.
Now, can you see it, ma'am?
No. Can I share it?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. It's here, my dear. You see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you make it full screen? So, my paper is about the darker side of journalism, and I am Uma Maheshwari from St. Paul's Degree College. Next slide, ma'am, please. So this paper talks about the unseen difficulties and challenges faced by journalists when investigating an influential case regarding government officials, mob organizations, terrorist organizations. Journalists face many hurdles in their path. regarding these investigations. This paper addresses the obstacle. This paper also addresses the obstacles that female journalists face in their workplace and the difficulties they face while investigating. Next slide, ma'am. So we can see at the right side, there are few of the journalists which I have mentioned in a paper about their cases, um, how they had go through many myriad of problems for conducting an investigation against the prominent people. So many of these cases were treated with impunity, and so it took a lot of time to get the justice, and while few cases have yet to gain justice. Ma'am, please. Okay. We can divide the safety issues of journalists into four kinds, that is impunity, gender-based crime, detention of journalists, and terror-based crimes. Impunity. There is a far more to impunity than committing murder and getting away with it. This is the development of an atmosphere under which other aggressive physical assaults such as torture, abduction, deprivation of liberty, family threats, harassment, cyberbullying, and death threats, assaults on professionals' reputation, confiscation, and harm to equipment and property. So impunity means the accused getting away with their crimes. So many the accused involved in the case harm the journalists for conducting the investigation against them, in various manners, like torturing them or um, confiscating their evidences, or in worst cases they might kill them, and the victim do not get his justice. So gender-based crime happens in two situations: at workplace and at investigations. In gender-based crimes, violence against women journalists had increased over the last decades and appears to be a part of everyday life of women journalists. Media staff who are objected to bullying, threats of abuse, family threats, and sexual assault in the room and on the ground. They are also targeted because of the kinds of news that they cover. While digital age has generated new opportunities for women journalists, it has also provided a forum for new types of online harassments, including cyber stalking, campaigns for slander, doxing, sextortion, trolling, as well as the non-consensual sharing of intimate content. So, in gender-based ma'am, back, ma'am. Back, previous slide, ma'am. Yes. In gender-based crime, we can see we can see deeply rooted discrimination against the woman. The male staff feels the need to uh, uh, let down the female journalist by throwing the nasty remarks at them or physically assaulting at them. We can see in the famous Shiori Ito's case how the senior head has sexually assaulted her while she was in an unconscious state. And it took her a lot of efforts and a very great work to get the justice. And we can also see in other cases where the investigation have while performing an investigation, the reporters were sexually assaulted by officials while they are under custody. Next slide, ma'am. detention of journalists and terror-based crimes. Detention of journalists. Most of the journalists were detained by the government for reporting news about corruption. It is also a way the journalists who investigate a question prominent person or brutalized. Detaining a journalist works to keep colleagues from going after them as a threat. They had to go through brutal torture while the reporter was in custody. While being arrested, sexual assault was overwhelmingly inflicted on female journalists. Journalist imprisonment can mostly be seen in oppressive regimes like China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, etc. These detention of journalists can be seen mostly in authoritarian regimes like Saudi Arabia, Russia, Turkey, uh, etc. While the journalists were under detention, the uh, the cops and the officials make sure that the person had been enough terrorized to not to go after them again after the release. And it is also another way to warn his colleagues, his or her colleagues, to not to go after them. So terror basic crimes in the past, for their own motives, we have seen that terrorist groups such as ISIS and the Taliban have kidnapped and beheaded journalists. Their main purpose is to warn the governments that are working against this terrorist organization. We can also see that in exchange for this life of a journalist, they pursue money. In a few instances, they would execute the hostage even though the demands were fulfilled. Um, in terror-based crime, we have seen James Foley and Steve, where these people were beheaded cruelly, and the video was posted in social media platforms to warn the governments to not to interfere in their war and not to help the countries which they are being terrorized. Safety measures. UNESCO body has given a guide for journalists. The guide is important body of knowledge and experience and acquired over the years by journalists, news organizations, and groups that campaign for freedom of journalists. By gathering and encapsulating these good practices from many different sources, the guides embodies the desires of all partners to join forces and work more closely together to strengthen every aspect of the safety of the journalist and fight against impunity. So this book contains a very different uh, um, so the guidebook contains various strategies how a journalist can save himself from harmful situation. uh, um, Conclusion. The research paper shows the darker side of journalists. Here we discuss the dangers the journalists have had to face through while investigating people with strong background in order to put a complete end to all these threats on journalists. The law must be strict and the government should also take the effective action against those who are committed to crime. Journalists must also learn a few of the skills mentioned in the above safety guide for journalists to save themselves from harm in horrible circumstances. Next. Thank you.
I would like to thank Unam. Sorry. Yes, it is Unam. I would like to thank Unam for her presentation on the darker side of journalism. Also interesting. And I would like to open the floor for a few questions, maybe one or two, because we have one more speaker that missed the presentation and he'll be joining us. And then we have the Ishika Singh, the last speaker. Any questions for Unam? Okay, can we continue? The speaker that just joined us, I'm not sure if he's here.
Yes, he is.
He is.
Dr. Ihsan.
Okay, Dr. Ehsan, my apologies. I have to. Oh, okay. Dr. Ehsan is going to be speaking on fatigue communication and COVID-19 in Iran. Dr. Ehsan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to thank the conference organizers and particularly Dr. Feda Muhammad for all her hard and 24/7 work to make this event, this wonderful event possible. I should also say thanks to all presenters in this session. I enjoyed listening to all presenters, although their topics were different, but I enjoyed all the presentations. Sorry, I think we are short of time. So I try to summarize my presentation. My presentation is on fatigue communication and COVID-19 in Iran. I have decided to choose this topic because the theme of the conference was related to the you might say the days issue. Now all the countries in the world are now grappling with the problems that COVID-19 have created to them, but Iran is especially damaged by this pandemic. Right now that I am talking to you, every day several hundred Iranians die because of the pandemic. It seems that the pandemic in Iran is now out of the control, and people are trying to stay home like everywhere else in the world. In this presentation, I try to say that Iranians' increased data consumption is mainly a fatigue communication and not a regular communication. Well, what's the difference? The term fatigue has been driven from the root of phatos. Phatos from the ancient Greek means linguistic. It means a kind of communication per se. It's not a kind of communication to convey some kind of meaning. It's a kind of communication for the sake of communication itself. So the first time that we hear the term fatigue communication and the term fatigue itself is by Malinowski in the 1920s. He had a contribution of one chapter in a volume, and in this volume he introduced the concept of fatigue communication, the communication which is for the sake of communication itself. For example, consider greetings. We do greetings, we say, how are you today? Not because we are interested in knowing how people are at the moment. We ask them, how are you? Because we want to open a new line of communication. We want to prime or conversant to be prepared to hear until we convey or meaningful packet of information. We create a communication sphere to make everything ready to real communication happen. This is in opposite. Fatigue communication is opposite to the general conception of communication at the time, in which it was said that any line of communication convey much more than what is said. For example, body language, or you might say ironies. They are conveying much more data and information than it might be conceived. So, what is the use of what is the relevance of fatigue communication in the time of pandemic in Iran? As I mentioned earlier, Iran is badly grappling with the issue of pandemic COVID-19, and therefore there are two lines of fatigue communication. Both of them are important and both of them are powerful pursuit. First is the political line, in which, for example, every 2 or 3 days, President Hassan Rouhani comes to the TV and with ministers around him, and he talks to people. For example, he says we should keep the social distance. It's very important that we should we wash our hands, and we should always keep our masks wear. And it's very important that at the same time that we keep social distance and we take measures to confront COVID-19, it's very important that we try to do our routine tasks. There is no information in this TV programs, you might say. It's some kind of pseudo events. There is no information in them, but still they continue holding these sessions. Why? Because President Hassan Rouhani is not intended to people that they should wear masks. He is trying to tell people that we as politicians are here, we are working days and nights, and every measures will be taken to keep you, the citizens, safe. It's the message that is conveyed, and not the kind of one might say the content that we think that these presentations, these media programs are intended to provide. And the other line that is pursued is kind of the fatigue communication on the social media. For example, right now that I'm talking to you, more than 50% of the Iranian data traffic on the Iranian internet, or you might say Iranian network, is allocated to Instagram. You might not believe that because many websites, many social networks like Twitter, Facebook, etc., are filtered in Iran, including the very popular.
And Dr. Yeah, I'm sorry, we have only 10 minutes because we need to listen to Professor Khadija to give us her closing remarks and comments, and then I will conclude the session. So your conclusion, please.
Well, I am almost done. I want to say that most of the communication line which is active on the social media is not for conveying any kind of information. It's for the sake of fatigue communication itself, and nothing more. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry, I know about the shortage of time. I try to be as concise as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Ehsan. And our last speaker for this session would be Ishika Singh. And Ishika will be speaking on women's sports and journalism, biased media.
No, Ishika is hospitalized. She cannot be here with us today.
So she's hospitalized. What for, may I ask?
No, I don't know. At the morning she came and she said she cannot enter. She's sick, so that's all.
I hope it's nothing important. I hope.
I hope so too.
Professor Khadija, can you give our closing remarks and comments? Then I will conclude the session.
Yes. I would like to say thank you to all our presenters for a very interesting round of papers that we listened to today. I know for one or two of them also we were glued in. And to all of them, Dr. Felix Ale, Shola Lohit, Titus, Unam, Ehsan, thank you on behalf of the university and the conference organizers. Let me say thank you, and I give you now to Professor Farouk, who will close.
Professor Khadija Bibi Khan, thank you for moderating the session. Let me conclude by talking briefly about every presentation, highlighting some ideas, besides giving few recommendations that I hope it will be included in the conference final recommendations. I'd like to thank all the speakers for the great and interesting presentations. Dr. Felix from Nigeria, you talked about an important topic, science communication, which is not attracting many researchers, journalists, and audiences. People think that science magazine or pages in newspapers and websites are only for scientists, or they are hard to be understood or boring. So I think we can attract audiences through infotainment, which is mixing information with entertainment. And we can attract journalists and researchers through science communication courses in mass communication departments and faculties. And science communication should be included in our curriculum. Shola Luth and Dinesh Babu from India, you discussed climate change in newspapers. This presentation is not only showing us the importance of covering climate change and spreading awareness of this issue, but it's also showing how traditional journalism can adopt new formats and techniques to attract audiences. And these techniques, especially visual representations, can be used in general in traditional journalism to face the 21st century challenges and to attract the youth. And concerning climate change, it's an issue that the whole world is facing and influenced by. But not all the countries dealing with it, even the developed countries. I think in 2017, President Trump announced that the US would cease participation in the Paris Agreement on climate change. So it's a very serious problem that the leaders also should be aware of. Titas and Madhu from India talked exactly about the main topic of this session. And I agree with you that the definition of online journalism should be reviewed and defined and redefined. And I think it should include all the characteristics of new media and digital media. Dr. Hanan El-Gindi from Ahram Kennedy University from Egypt. I really like how you and many researchers in this session and previous sessions have been inspired by this pandemic to conduct research studies about different topics, such as your topic, journalist safety. I think that most of mass communication scholars and professors, besides audiences, are usually talking about journalist duties and criticizing their works. And few are talking and caring about journalist rights. And when we talk about the rights, we just focus on press freedom. However, their safety is very important, not only during a war, but also during this pandemic.
Yes.
International Press Institute and Reporters Without Borders have reported many documented cases of journalists who have been blocked from reporting on COVID-19. So protecting journalists during this pandemic should include physical safety, legal safety, psychological safety, and digital safety. Uma Maheshwari, your presentation is the second in this session about journalist rights, but this one focused on females. Many studies show that American female journalists face threats from angry readers, for example, hate speech, online harassment, especially when they cover political issues. Therefore, I think we can say it's a global phenomenon. So digital security is an important issue that we have to spread awareness about, besides other types and kinds of safety for journalists in general and female journalists in particular. Ishika Singh from India, we missed her and we missed her presentation. I read her abstract and I checked her PowerPoint presentation. She told about the situation of women in sports in media, which is not different from Egypt or the whole world. It's found everywhere. And I believe that women can play all the different types and kinds of sports, but many audiences and journalists, males or females, don't accept to find women in sport journalism or to find them playing all the different sports. We can say it's a global culture or believe that we need to change. The final presentation by Dr. Ihsan from Iran talked about fatigue communication by applying on Iran, sharing with us new perspectives about coronavirus studies. Besides media issues in Iran, which are rarely presented in conferences in Egypt. In conclusion, I want to say that the future of traditional journalism is one of the most discussed topics academically and professionally in these last years, but it's debate. Some scholars believe that print journalism will disappear and die. Others believe it will survive. I think it will survive by implementing your brilliant ideas, my dear professors and colleagues. Finally, I would like to thank our speakers for their great presentations. And thank you, Professor Khatija, our moderator, and the participants for their important discussions. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Ines Abu Yusuf, Dean of the Faculty of Mass Communication at Ahram Canadian University, Dr. Amal Essayed, Vice Dean, and all the organizers of the conference, especially FIDA, for the successful conference and smooth and well-planned event. I hope to meet you soon. Thank you and bye.
Thank you very much. And here we are closing this session. And Dr. Ines, do you want to add something? Dr. Amal, do you want to add something? Or let's go to the other session because we are late 5 minutes.
It's a very interesting session. Thank you, Professor Dina, and thank you, Professor Khadija, and thank you for all presenters. The traditional media suffer from a critical situation. So it need to adapt different tools and roles and functions for surviving. Thank you for all, and we can start the next session.
Okay. Before going to the next session, Dr. Ihsan, there are questions for you in the chat box. So if you would like to join us. So now we are going to the new session with Professor Hana Farouk. The session is New Approaches Analyzing International Media Systems. So let me introduce Dr. Hana, and then I will introduce Professor Shinasimi Pishandi, the moderator. Professor Hana Farouk Saleh, she's a professor of journalism at the Faculty of Mass Communication, Cairo University. She is a reviewer in various national and international journals, such as the Asian Journal of Social Science Studies. She published a book about Egyptian public opinion attitudes toward international political organizations, and another about social media in Egyptian newspapers, new opportunity or credibility threat. Also, she worked about the public opinion attitude towards civil society organizations. Then I would like to introduce Professor Shinasimi Pishandi. Shinasimi Pishandi, he is a PhD specialized in mass communication from the University of Madras. His career spans over 40 years as an academic, researcher, administrator, teacher, leader, and social worker, reflecting his commitment to higher education and society in general. He has made significant contributions in the field of mass communication and journalism and higher education in particular. He is the founder head of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at PSG College of Art and Science, affiliate of Bharatiyar, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, University yes, of India, and made it into a center for higher learning. More to be said, but let me introduce Dr. Hana and Dr. Pishandi to start the session. Dr. Hana, the word is with you.
Thank you, Fida. Dear all, good afternoon. First, I would like to thank Professor Ines Abu Yusuf, the Dean of the Mass Communication Faculty at the Canadian University, and my dear friend, Dr. Professor Amal Sayed, Vice Dean, and you, Fida, also, Dr. Fida Muhammad, for the invitation and for giving me this chance to participate and attend the prestigious international conference to meet friends, professors, and colleagues and academic peers to discuss main and current concerns and issues in our profession. Second, I want to welcome our prominent guests and researchers who will present a very interesting and important paper about press freedom, TV power, entrepreneurship, media, and means role as a public opinion way to express and impress. Also, I would like to welcome also Dr. Nikita Puta, our speakers, Professor Altafullah Khan, journalist Hanan Suleiman, and our promising researchers, Shinasimi Pishandi, PhD specialized in mass comm from the University of Madras, India, and the moderator of this session. Professor Shinasimi, please.
Shall I take over? Thank you. Can I take over from you? Am I audible? Is it audible?
You are audible, but Dr. Hannah just...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, shall I start?
Yes.
Fida, can I start?
Yes, yes, the doctor is saying yes.
Yeah. The chairperson of today's last session, Professor Hane, the authorities of the university, the dean faculty, and our young friend, Dr. Fida, for this opportunity to moderate this session. We have with us 4 papers, 2 on freedom of the press and expression, and 2 on monopoly and diversity, monopoly versus diversity. I request the panelists to take 1 minute and introduce yourself to the audience so that they will come to know what is what and about yourself. And just stick on to the timing, 7 minutes, please. This is my request so that we will finish our session in a given time. You have got another session, the recommendations and other things are there. So let me not waste time. I just call upon Nikita to present her paper. Nikita, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir, thank you. I request Feda Mohammed ma'am to present the screen.
Sure. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My research paper is on freedom of press under authoritarian governments. I am Nikita. Next slide, please. I am Nikita from India. Next slide, please. So yeah, foremost, what is the reason that I have chosen this topic for the research is that, as we all know, that coronavirus outbreak began all over the world in the month of December 2019, and also WHO declared COVID-19 outbreak on January 30, 2020, a global health emergency. And of course, whole world is going through the pandemic, whereas North Korea still declares 0 coronavirus cases despite evidence showing thousands of cases over there, where even North Korea shares border with China, which is the birthplace of coronavirus. Coming to China, President Xi Jinping places both state and private media under tight control and expanded internet censorship and surveillance to high levels. I think moreover, 115 working and citizen journalists are presently under threatening circumstances in China. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia does not allow any free press. The official authorities keep Saudi journalists under strict surveillance even while they're abroad, as it is proven by the murder of Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul in October 2018. So how these autocratic governments maintaining control over the power or the press through central planning, citizen admittance to information technology and cultural norms. So have chosen these 3 countries: North Korea, China, and Saudi Arabia. Next slide, please. So this is the overall score of Saudi Arabia, China, and North Korea, where Saudi Arabia's percentile is 62.4 and China's is 59.5 and North Korea is 4.2. So here overall score consists of property rights, judicial effectiveness, government integrity, and etc. Next slide, please. So central planning of government. Central control of government power enables autocratic governments to have more influence over the resources of power in the region, including legislative ability and law enforcement. This the king and the president allows the government to enact national overreaching laws that restrict freedom of press, with a less regional or local opposition that latter helps the government to enforce or enact certain rules. Coming to cultural norms have critical part to play the government's ability to monitor freedom of press, since they establish self-censorship of journalists. If the society values the privacy of journalists, it would be more inclined or likely to censor themselves either voluntarily or out of fear of retribution or retaliation. Coming to citizen admittance to information technology, people with higher access of information are more able to access restricted information through the government outlaws. Moreover, more people able to easily capture and produce, publish the news using the technical information. Next slide, please. So central planning of government in North Korea, China, and Saudi Arabia. As North Korea is a communist state and one man dictatorship power centralized over there, and the whole power is in the hands of Kim Jong Un and Korean Workers' Party of North Korea. Indeed. So actually, the elections in North Korea provide people with almost no options, and the choices over there are already pre-approved. Then the chosen representatives are almost guaranteed to win. Coming to China, and it is also a communist party, and here the China retains power instead of one individual, and that means the power is still highly concentrated, even though it is distributed around the party instead of individual. Even though China elections gave more choices, but all the candidates are are of members of Chinese Communist Party and are required to uphold the principles of Communist Party. Coming to Saudi Arabia, here it is absolute monarchy and controls almost all the freedom and civil liberties, and no representatives are elected at national level. Next slide, please. Cultural bonds. So here, North Korea and China have shared history with two institutions, whereas highly significant influence on their cultural values, on concerning privacy and control, as it has complex religious strains of Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, etc. And where here, uh, I'm sorry, there, that this acclaims implies that individuals should adhere the wisdom of the authority of their elders or superiors, which draw a comparison between reverence of their reverence of people for influence of Kim Jong Un in North Korea and CCP in China. As power, I mean, the reverence here of the citizens means power of which a man ruled, the power of moral example, that is like the patterns of prestige are used in the service of governance of country, and government is good if it can maintain economic sufficiency, military sufficiency, and confidence of the people. So these are the concepts which have taken from uh, Confucianism, and this encourage North Korean Chinese citizens to support their ideologies and all. Coming to Saudi Arabia, here the people, I mean, the citizens are are kept in to very strict life-threatening conditions when if they criticize or examine the political problems, can be fined or detained under the laws of criminal code, under the laws of terrorism or cybercrime, etc. Next slide, please. Citizen admittance to information technology. Here in Saudi Arabia, the government holds technological influences over generally stable internet infrastructure, and although internet access is reasonably inexpensive, Saudi Arabia's restrictive absolute monarchy puts significant restrictions on the section of information and service available online. Coming to China, China has high-level internet users. It is important to note that China is deeply censoring the internet that its people have access to, and sometimes it removes some words which misrepresents the Communist Party. Coming to access in North Korea, the internet access is completely zero, and there is no internet users over there. Only higher officials are using the internet. Next slide, please. So my paper provides an overview and analysis of three authoritarian countries and manner in which the freedom of press is monitored by central planning, cultural focus on privacy, and access to information technology. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
thank.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Nikita. It's a good paper. And it's a very obvious paper also. You have taken 3 countries, and all the 3 countries, their political system as well as the governance is known. So it is naturally reflective. The data is reflective of the system, and the variables are very good. The way the variables approach is very good. The question is who's in charge. The question is who's in charge, and it is very obvious. And you have stated the obvious. And instead of inviting questions, we will go to the next session and we will take all the questions in the end of the session. Am I right? Kada, am I right? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, we have Dr. Altaf with us. Then we have Dr. Hanan with us. Then we have Dr. Mariam and Dr. Dina. Yes.
Yeah, we'll take up the questions in the end. We'll finish up the sessions. Okay, that's a format I'm suggesting. Okay, then we'll move to the next paper, Professor Altaf. Yesterday, I happened to present a paper on this chairmanship. It is the other way today. I welcome Professor Altaf. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I have tried to scribble a presentation with the time I had, and I don't know where it is, but let me find it. So it will be, okay. So where are we on this? You're seeing the whole of my screen. Yeah, here it is. Why isn't it coming up?
Yeah.
It didn't get shared, sorry. Here it is, yeah. So we have it. Okay, so it's an incomplete one. I'm sorry. Well, let me introduce myself and I'll stick to the time rule. But you have given me 1 minute to introduce myself.
Yes,
Am
sir.
I right?
Thank you. You take your time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So my name is Altaf Khan, and I am professor of mass communication at Foreman Christian College University. I'm also the dean of humanities. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Is the voice clear? Okay.
You're hearing.
Before joining Foreman Christian College University, I have taught at the University of Peshawar in the north of Pakistan for 28 years. In fact, I have been on that campus for 30 years. In between, I have studied in Germany and I taught in the US. And this is what academics do all the time. So this is nothing special. So my presentation today is Television and Power, the struggle for monopoly over public discourse by controlling television. Well, I must say that it's an ongoing theme. I'm working on it. In fact, I'm working in area of freedom of expression and thought. And also, besides our general confusion with why is something happening, like why are governments like this and why is the media like that, I have tried to find some theoretical backgrounds which are tentative, I must say. These are nothing final, but I have published a couple of book chapters. And my study is based on that. I hope to work further on it after I present this one. So central to the whole idea of mine is the idea of negative and positive morality. Like there are philosophers who think that there is negative and positive morality, which is at work. A negative morality is not negative in the sense of sinning or doing right, but it's about that the negative morality is normally considered to be something that the governments do. They don't want free thought and expression ruin the cultural processes. So the governments are within their right to restrict certain actions according to the constitution, which is a living, evolving document. Some people think that the constitution came 3,000 years before, or 5,000 years before, or 1500. In our modern polity, we consider that a constitution is a living document, and it always has to represent the needs and aspirations of the people who live or decide to live under the constitution. Like we don't follow the Hobbesian model, but we rather try to go along with Rousseau, whose social contract is more familiar. So the positive morality. So governments normally are restrictive. So they will tell you not to do this. They have laws at their hand, like this one. So they use laws. Governments are monopols. My apology for writing monopol, because in German there is a word monopol. I don't think it's in English, but I'll just use it. So the governments always think that it's their right to restrict certain actions for the betterment of society. Now, a good government will always look the future growth of a society, and not simply an idea that they will adhere to. Rather, they will see that a smooth transition from one situation to another one is possible. Like society moves on and it adopts new mores, but it shouldn't be like, let me stay there. So it shouldn't be just doing some things that brings the whole structure of a society into question. And then there is the government. Media is monopoly. So media, on the other hand, is an institution in democratic societies who think that they have the right to steer public discourse. And they always say that we are the fourth pillar of the state, or this is, and true, the democracy can't run without a media. So they represent mostly intelligentsia, media, freedom of expression. People who want to innovate things and do new things are considered to be the ones espousing positive morality. And that's why they are always more popular than the negative morality, because the government is always restricting the media most of the time in a democratic polity, is trying to bring in some restrictions that different sections of society don't go into a disrepute. And what they want to do is that they want to control the public discourse. Now, the question here is whether a government controls the public discourse for public good, or whether a media institution supports freedom and positive morality for the sake of public good or for making money. Now, the truth of the matter is that media is basically an institution which is run to earn more and more money. There are ethics, but most of the time it is not followed. Unfortunate, but that's true. And there comes this struggle between the government and the media. And what we get at the end is their battle for eternal watchdoggery. As Foucault used to say, that it is the government who always tries to control a public discourse. But nowadays we see, like Facebooks and Twitters and everything, national media also, they want to have control. They want to play the watchdog. And we have heard a lot about media institutions like Facebook selling people's profiles and stuff like that going on. And we end up in a confused population where the media kind of shows the government as like this, that it is going to ruin everything. Government, on the other hand, will also always dislike whatever is going on. And as I have shared earlier, we are having our social media extremely powerful, and we are having a confused population in front of us that really don't know what to do. There is a lot of work going on, but at this point, we are really, as researchers, we are really at a loss who to trust. Governments mostly have become untrustworthy around the world, I must say. Like, people do vote and get into elections and do everything, but at the end of the day, they are always surprised to see that the government didn't function the way they promised to. So the public discourse is quite confused nowadays. Both the government and the media are trying to control it. Media has become, in fact, one of the most powerful decision makers of our modern times. And so this struggle goes on. And in Pakistan, I'll just end it up. I think I've eaten up more time than I was allowed to. I just finish in 1 minute because I think I've just explained more and explained the idea more and didn't bring it to the point. In Pakistan, for example, I'll just ask for 1 more minute. I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
So the problem in Pakistan, when we put it into the Pakistani context, the government had a free press at the independence of Pakistan, which means newspapers, but they didn't allow television and radio to be free. So television and radio were under the Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation and Pakistan Television Corporation. In fact, television was introduced by the then military dictator, General Ayub Khan, who was the chief martial law administrator and also the president and also many things in one person. And in his inaugural speech, he said that he will take care of any negative message, and the government is doing it by, and this is the very specimen of a negative morality, that the government will not give financial independence to television. So the television will remain under government control. The journalists will work the way the government wants to, because the government was the custodian of ethics and morality. And it remained like that. So the government was in power. They were ruling it everywhere. Then came General Musharraf, who liberalized the press, independent television. Reasons were not any change of heart, but rather international scenario which was changing. It was no more possible to live in a society where you don't allow certain things because the world knows everything right now. So and then began an era where television became very powerful in Pakistan. It still is. Individual journalists are very powerful, and it also controls the narrative right now. And again, we have a confused people who don't know who to trust, the media or the government. Television is under immense pressure in Pakistan right now because the government considers it and social media the biggest enemies. And this struggle is going on. Right now, if we say at this moment, we don't know who's more powerful, either the government or the media. But with more than 100 television channels in Pakistan, in India, there are many more. So, yeah. So we are really waiting and seeing where does it go. It doesn't seem good for the media right now, I think. Thank you very much for your patience. My apologies for incomplete presentation.
It's a complete discussion, Dr. Altroff. So actually, Dr. Altroff presented the clash between a triangle. Like the Bermuda Triangle, the morality is in question in most of the countries. The clash between governance structured morality vis-a-vis media structured moral right of information, vis-a-vis public perception of and expectations of the contextual social reality. So this is the triangle of clash that's going on in any democratic country, even in other countries too, whether it is democratic or otherwise. So how public discourse is caught in between this triangle is the crux of Dr. Altroff's presentation. It's a very perspective and a discourse indeed, and it should be taken forward. I wish Dr. Altroff takes it forward to the next level and comes out with a good book on that. It's a very interesting and the need of the hour. And with this, we'll move to the next paper. The next paper is from Dr. Anand Sulaiman. The floor is open to Dr. Anand. You are there, Dr. Anand? Yeah,
yes,
she's there.
Yes, I am.
Go. Yeah.
Thank you. Greetings to you and salam alaikum and peace be upon you. Thank you for allowing me to join you and have this opportunity to present my paper. I'll be sharing from my screen, Dr. Fede. Okay. You can see it right now, right?
Yes.
Please introduce yourself for a second. Yes.
My name is Hanan Sulaiman, and I'm an entrepreneurial journalist. So I'm coming from the practitioner side. Yeah. So just a brief introduction. Over the last decade, new vertical media has officially arisen in the Arab world, beginning from El Shem, with a regional perspective. Observing and analyzing this emerging trendy entrepreneurship media, which we will call EM, has become increasingly important for practitioners after a proven fast-growing decade for the Arab entrepreneurship ecosystem that kicked off in 2009
with former US President Barack Obama's speech at Cairo University. Since then, dedicated programs, initiatives, funds, networks, accelerators, and competitions have been flourishing, setting the atmosphere for startups to launch and get the kind of support needed. Research shows that back in 2009, there was $50 million put in investment financing in 5 venture deals. Fast forward 10 years later, the number of deals jumped to 564, amounting for $704 million. That's $704 million. Numbers speak louder than words. This paper looks at both the development and business sides of the coin. It embeds key informant interviews with 6 ground-setting platforms of EM, which are WAMDA, Entrepreneur Middle East and Al Arabiya, ArabNet, Menabytes, Waya, and Startup Scene Middle East. It should be noted that these platforms are not equal in terms of weight, scale, and professionalism, but they all fall under the EM umbrella that is region-focused, EM being the entrepreneurship media. At such critical times for the media worldwide, concerning independence and sustainability, some believe that the future of media lies within verticals. But what is a vertical? Almost every profession has an industry media that reports relevant news and topics, which is the conceptual definition of trade magazines, also referred to as trades or trade journals, that comprise of vertical and horizontal forms. Such publications are usually available upon subscription, which means they cannot be found alongside consumer magazines in the market. Vertical media or content vertical is one type that targets a niche specific, narrow, valuable, and expensive segment or market within a particular industry that advertisers and sponsors would want to access but cannot easily reach. An initial argument refutes the idea that vertical media is journalism, naming it PR, public relations. However, vertical media may provide investigative reports and analytical interpretation that goes beyond the news. Usually EM can be found as a subcategory in business magazines or organizations. BBC is one example with its climate-focused vertical. It can also be totally independent, as we see with the real estate-focused InvestGate magazine in Egypt. There are several types of ownership and professionalism, also different levels of professionalism that we found in the paper. We could see the venture capital ownership type, also the sales experts launching entrepreneurship-focused platforms, coming with vast business skills. You can also see individuals with technology, business, and finance background, but not necessarily journalism, and also the media agency type. You can see the examples that we studied in the paper, representing the different types. So the characteristics of the EM that we could draw when it comes to language, it was mostly English that was used, and it means quality content. It was more about uncovering hidden stories. Some platforms had Arabic versions, but they were more educational and of less quality usually. And they also suffered or faced some terminology challenges, like localizing or Arabizing the terms that came out from the West. When it comes to the naming, some of the interviewees called what they're doing as journalism or startup media or venture capital media. Someone called it advocacy, and another called it entrepreneurial storytelling. The platforms, the 6 platforms, were mostly run by journalists. The team was no easy catch. Sometimes they even had to organize some workshops to get the new members, journalists in that case, familiar with what's going on and the terms and everything. The edge, some had, beside the articles, interviews, and multimedia, whatever they were publishing, some added glossaries, directories, databases, and research. Some also organized events and funding competitions, and some expanded to emerging markets beyond the Arab world. When it comes to entrepreneurship, like startups, it's mostly tech focused. So you can see the health tech, the edu tech, the agri tech, whatever. One interviewee said the media offering should be the cherry on a cake. So it comes like in a bundle of, you present it as a package to the readers. So what is the rest of the package? We will get to see in a second. The revenue, most of them, if not all, said that the advertising model is insufficient for them. Subscription surfaces as the future, they believe. And when it comes to, back to the quote, the cherry on a cake quote, some saw like profitable services for sustainability. They saw like presenting or adding some services that they can do for their clients, be them the readers or other types of clients, that will help them reach sustainability. The services, the kind of services meant could be data, consulting, training, research, also creative studio, like doing materials for others, and social media retainers. That is more about social media marketing and stuff. Some even see a future for print, which was kind of surprising, on condition that good journalists meet good sales. It was more is expected from entrepreneurship media. Like we see several platforms coming out, and also like updating and enriching their content on their websites. So there is more room for EM to emerge further. Startups and entrepreneurship are becoming more mainstream. So you can see like coverage of them in the mainstream media, like specific pages or, you know, special editions or something. Not necessarily like entrepreneurship focused platforms. Also the free press question appears because back to the ownership type. So if the venture capital type, if the VCs, they're practically the investors here. So if they want to publish stories that may be not so good for their status, so they can be like stories frowned upon to all them, either from the government or by the government or by other businesses. So there are some stories that are maybe they would not want to dig deeper in. But it's up to them, of course, to decide like how far they want to reach. And in the paper, we cite some examples on this. There is also some potential for local platforms because all of the 6 platforms that we studied in the paper.
Is there any audio problem?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know. Did I just
Presentation is.
No, we are hearing you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm not sure where.
You're about to conclude.
Yes, I know. So we were, I guess, in the conclusion slide. Did you hear my pre-press question?
Yes.
Okay. So, and also there is some potential for local platforms to emerge alongside the regional. The regional platforms, this was the focus more of the study. So as you can see, the scene was bright, but then COVID-19 broke out, which, of course, the interviewees and this paper was prepared for last April. That was like the initial date of the IJCON. But then I was thinking like, shall I update the paper and get back to the interviewees and see how the pandemic is affecting. But then I said, maybe not. Maybe this is a good paper to just stand until the last moment before the pandemic. So to see how the EM is doing in the Arab world, just in a pre-pandemic world. And then maybe some follow-ups could continue and see how the pandemic has affected them. Thank you very much. And this is my LinkedIn account for further communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. It is a very interesting paper. personally, I wish to congratulate you because this is a very intuitive and emerging area of study that you have taken up. I think it's a very unique study in the entire conference that I have sat and observed. And I congratulate you for taking up this. It's a very, very important area that is emerging. And you have also critically analyzed what I call it as a confetti media. Like rain, it is coming up, these days. And they are emerging in the local communities, especially local communities, which you have said in the last point, in the conclusion. And in the new media technology platforms. Though many of them are fly-by-night entrepreneurship, but they keep on rocking, they keep on emerging because the business model is like that. And the focus is mostly on very local communities, local content, local issues. So at least there is a scope for thriving for some time. So it's a very interesting paper. I really congratulate you for taking up this emerging technology platform for media practices. And we will go to the last paper, and then we will take up the question paper session. Now, may I invite Mariam and Dina to present the paper, please. You are there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah. Go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you.
Not technically, but virtually. The floor I'm talking about. It's a habit that doesn't die that easily. Okay, come
on. We are Mariam, Ayman, and Dina Yunus. We are assistant lecturers in MSA University in Egypt, and we're going to present today about the use of internet memes as a representation of the Egyptian public opinion and an alternative source of communication in social media. Righty? Okay. The proliferation of digital technology and media has paved the way for teenage and young adults to socialize on a new level. The online platform, social media, became a place for civic engagement and public opinion expression. The term meme actually was first introduced by the biologist Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene, where he defined the term as a cultural unit that is transmitted from one person to another via imitation. However, nowadays memes are defined as a popular cultural product created and distributed by ordinary people. Distributed virtually, actually virally through the internet, and therefore each has the potential to be very powerful on the public. Thus, the study of the memes actually paves the way to a new venue in understanding popular political and social opinions of the public. Internet memes are an important feature of digital technology and social media that spread dramatically to mainstream culture of the online world. Memes are defined as a public humorous image, video, text, and everything related to that kind of space that individuals copy and spread through the virtual sphere from one person to another and from one community to another. Using humor in creating the memes enables the Egyptian public to address sensitive topics and express criticism in which otherwise they weren't able to do it before. Memes actually paved the way for something. In the beginning of 2020 came the pandemic COVID-19, since it has been by huge memes on network sites. Typically for Egyptians in time of crisis, they like to maintain a high in humor as coping tool to deal with stress and isolation from home quarantine. During the lockdown that was enforced worldwide, Egyptians had plenty of free time to browse social media and fully express their opinions on what's happening. This resulted in a spontaneous global wave of coronavirus related to the memes. John Trick in 2020 said that the social phenomena was transmitted into social networks as virally as the coronavirus itself. In this paper, we're going to analyze how it serves as a vehicle to express an individual or collective voice. Individuals use these memes as the main source of communication, specifically focused on current public opinion issue, which is COVID-19. Thus, we wanted to examine first, viewing COVID-19 memes will result in perceived as a new method of communication. That's our first hypothesis. The second one is viewing of COVID-19 memes in perceiving as a new source of information knowledge. And our third hypothesis is viewing COVID-19 memes will result in perceiving memes as news for freedom of expression. Our method in the paper actually was conducting an online survey. It was distributed among people to help understand and analyze the use of the meme expressing an individual's opinion and how they use it as its main source of communication on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our number, the number of our sample was 163 person. The study employed as purpose of sampling, where the sample must meet the in being active online participants on social media platform and being teenagers and young adults, since the main users online platforms.
Okay, going back to our results, all of our participants were active users of the popular social media networks, i.e. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Snapchat. However, most of the participants, when answered what is the most used social network they used, was the answer was Facebook. All of the participants understood what a meme is. They enjoy reading them. The majority, with 83%, whether they share a meme daily or have created a meme before. They also all answered that they encounter memes daily and that they use it as a method of communication between their peers. 90% of the participants have said that the internet internet memes had highlighted a social or a political issue they were not previously aware of. That means that they actually obtain knowledge and information about issues happening in the country from internet memes. 75% said that they use memes as a method of self-expression when texting or posting something on their social network sites. 60% use memes to contribute to public conversations regarding COVID-19, and only 40% said that they believed a meme regarding the protective measures of coronavirus. This showed the results from the survey, although it's not a generalizable results. It's a very small scale study, since we did it before the quarantine and we faced a lot of limitations and problems. So this showed that the viewing of COVID-19 memes will result in perceiving memes as a new method of communication, and it will result in perceiving memes as a new source of information and knowledge. However, due to these results, you can see that most of them answered neutral or disagree. The viewing of COVID-19 memes will not result in perceiving memes as a new space for freedom or of expression. This was not showed, since most of the participants disagreed or remained neutral when asked if they think memes make them more aware or more knowledgeable of the issue, and if it strengthened their views regarding the issues at hand. Okay. In conclusion, internet memes comment on our events in our society from a humorous perspective. How this results in a mirroring of the social reality on the internet, specifically social network websites. During the emergence of the novel COVID-19 pandemic, a proliferation of memes resulted to events discussed in Arabic-speaking social media emerged. This led the researchers to examine whether the Egyptian news view these memes as a new method of communication, and whether the Egyptian youth use these memes to obtain information about the pandemic. Okay, the study showed that the internet memes are a very big part of the Egyptian youth's viral life, whether they are active users of social media or share and post a meme daily to their peers. The study also showed that they obtain new information from memes shared by their peers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariam and Dina. I'll again wish to congratulate both the researchers, because again, it is a new area that they have taken up, memes as a cultural byproduct of the emerging media in the world. And as it become a medium of expression, and to express public opinion in a new type of platform, their study says, yes, memes are going to stay as a medium of expression in Egypt, It will stay in future also. That is the result shows. And it looks like the study reveals that it is going to emerge as an important facet of public discourse. Whether they believe it, the believability is there right now or not. It's a matter of time that an in-depth study will reveal. It's a very interesting, and really I congratulate the young researchers for taking up these studies. So in all, though the last session, I was fortunate to moderate the 4 papers which are very dear to me, as well as to all the 4 of them are emerging areas. One is especially on Nikita's paper, a very interesting paper on the structures of the political structure vis-a-vis the media structure and expression. And Professor Altaf has come out with a very discourse on the morality versus media versus reality, social reality. It's a very dynamic area. It's a ever ongoing discourse, a never-ending discourse also. It's a very interesting paper. The third one, again, the emerging type of local media entrepreneurship and new media platforms that are emerging in the communities, local communities. And the last paper, again, a very interesting one on memes. So it's very interesting. And now I request the question and answer session may be taken. Then I will hand over the floor to Dr. Hannah Self. So may I now request questions from the audience? Yeah. Be specific to the speakers, please.
I think they are congratulating each other on the.
Maybe.
So that means they are.
Yeah.
They are done. They don't have questions. I think they are fulfilled with it.
Yeah. And I see our senior colleague, Professor Raj Gupta there.
Yes.
Good evening, India time, Professor, and I'm happy to see you after a long time. Yes.
Professor, you are talking, but please unmute.
Yeah, I think, yeah, he is muted, yeah.
We had the question from Jatin for Dr. Hanan Sulaiman. Are you exploring more on the relationship between low revenue EM internship, definitely, and freedom of press?
Yes, please, Nalan is there?
Dr. Hanan.
Yeah, is she there?
I am. I'm no doctor yet, but thanks for the question.
We all wish soon.
Yeah, yes, definitely. No, it was more about the pre-press question here. Is more about like what kind of limits or restrictions this EM puts to itself, based maybe on the ownership type. So the investor, maybe you missed this while when I disconnected. So maybe the investors, if they own some platforms, they don't want to get the governments angry, or maybe other businesses, this kind of relationships. And also the media agency type, it's more in for the clicks and for the marketing and for the money. So they don't really care, and also this paper says that they don't really care about the content, but more about like how they make money. But of course, this type, so the ownership type actually affects what kind of stories and the content published. So when I say the pre-press question, they have their own. Still, it's not always like the covering entrepreneurs and startups, and the good stuff and everything, but also digging deeper and seeing like if there's some corruption or like why did this startup fail, for instance, after all these like investment rounds and all this money that was poured in, where did it go, and how were they able to fool the investors cycle after the other? That was more the free press question. And of course, it is left to each platform, like how far they want to go in that concern.
I think she has added another question. Is it like any other small business? Exactly, because we used to have these community newspapers. Sometimes it is given free, and sometimes it is charged. In every in a metropolitan city, in every area is flooded with a small newspaper. Probably that is a model now these entrepreneurships are taking up now. I think it's a business model, no doubt about that. And the content, other things, there is always subjective. Professor Baldev, Professor Rajgupta, Gupta ji, will you please unmute your, you've been raising your hands. No, sir, you're not yet. Yeah, you have to unmute. Fida, can you unmute his mic?
I pressed ask to unmute, but the professor must.
Yeah, I think he should do it. I think he's saying something, but we are not hearing. Do you hear, Professor? You have to unmute your mic.
Dr. Raj.
Maybe we'll go to some other question then. We'll take up some other question, please. Yes. Yeah.
Can you just
yes, any other questions? Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions? I think, yeah.
There is no question, then we will wind up this session. Before I hand over the session to the chairperson, I would really express my sincere thanks to the panelists. I think he has come online. Yes, yes.
Yes, you are getting me?
Yes, Gupta ji, please.
Yes.
We are hearing. We are hearing.
My question is, why the newspaper is so costly in Pakistan? That is one question. And it is directly related to ownership and with the press freedom also. So freedom, I remember the first press commission report in 1952, when Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister of India, was asking to the journalist, you want freedom from whom? From the government or from your own owner? Because gatekeeping is there. So the problem is in Pakistan, they are saying that why they are following the same step, because India is holding the TV and radio in early period under the government umbrella. Same did the IJCON in 1958 and later on, because the TV came in almost in 60s. So both are holding this. They are making the people because they are afraid of the new media. That time it was the new media, TV and this thing. So my question is, a poor country, less literacy, and the costly newspaper, and somewhere you will find in a metropolitan town we are getting some free paper now. The scenario is totally changed, and the people are not ready to do. Community reading is gone. Individual paper, a rich man is getting 3-4 papers, and poor man is not getting even one. And the reading habit is declining. The one aspect. So radio and TV, they are emerging. Social media is emerging. People are participating, and this pandemic made the people to live in a different way, in closed door. And still they are asking. They're connecting each other. A new thing has developed. They are gone back, reading the religious book. Many other things they develop in new technology has been created by themselves. And meme is very nice. You rightly pointed out that lady has presented a very nice paper. So that something emerge automatically. So that is there. But my question is the problem of the India and Pakistan about the media.
Let us hear from Professor Altaf.
I need to know why that thing is there.
Yeah, response to your question. Yes, Professor Altaf.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. As far as the price is concerned, it's rising. It's simple. Even I don't buy it, you know. But the good thing about it is that Pakistani newspapers don't have paywalls, so you can access any newspaper for free. So that's what most of people are doing. You are very right that the government never trusted like I can say for Pakistan, and I think, as you said, same true for India, that governments always consider institutions that can be platforms for individual freedom of expression something that is their enemy, and that's very dangerous. Like as the reason I have decided to use this theoretical framework of positive and negative morality is basically that government should know that its right to restrict certain information is directly connected with the benefit of the citizens. Not so government is not kind of a leviathan that could control everything at its whims. Unfortunately, that's not happening. Like television got free, it became really free. People blame television for abusing its power. But the problem here is that if you don't allow anything to function in a proper way for many decades, like 50, 60 years, when it begins, this is what is going to happen. Around the globe, everywhere, media has behaved the same way, and then they found a point. So we have to trust the media. Unfortunately, this is not happening. As far as the new media is concerned, it's a very good development, but we should also be wary that social media, when there are so many restrictions on mainstream media, starts controlling the narrative, which is very dangerous because although gatekeeping is not good, but editorial functions are important. Understanding what is what and how is important. And also, we should also keep in mind, and I tell all the journalist colleagues over here, that even though you are forced to open your YouTube channels and you are on Twitter, you have to struggle to make to strengthen mainstream media, because once if the mainstream media is defeated and we are at the whims of social media, which is just anybody's media, we will lose democracy. We will truly lose democracy. So I agree with your concerns, and we all have to struggle to make things better in our capacity, whatever we have. Thank you very much for the insights.
Thank you, Professor Altaf, and thank you, Professor Gupta ji. And I think we'll move on.
We have
to
one more
the
question.
One more question is there?
Yes, in the chat
please.
box. Is
Yeah,
this fragmentation of the media due to business model creating a vacuum in information equality we receive?
I think this question is to Ms. Hanan. Yeah, please.
Yes. I was just typing the answer.
Sure,
thank
sure.
you. So actually not. I mean, we can see specialized pages now in print media, also TV shows. So in Egypt, we had Lamis El-Hadidi's show. I forgot the name right now, but it was a very famous TV show about entrepreneurship. We also had Al-Mashrua, even long before then. There are other TV shows in the Gulf that are also mentioned in the paper. So no, I mean, of course, like anything new, or if you're having like a certain trend that is becoming like attracting people and interest and so on and so forth. So you get more people who are interested to uncover or cover these the stories of this trend somewhere. I mean, in a specialized platform or so. So recently, for instance, there was a specific platform for investors, specifically investors, not entrepreneurship as a whole. So this was kind of something that is totally new. But you can see specialized pages in print media and also TV shows focused on entrepreneurship. As you can see also on health and, like the BBC example that we mentioned in the paper. They have a vertical, climate-focused vertical. You have climate, you have, of course, health, you have certain, I mean, different topics, but no, we're not having this vacuum, no.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I must thank the panelists and also the participants now, because they made this session very lively. And I must thank all my panelists, Dr. Professor Altaf and Dr. Hanan. Again, I'm saying Dr. Hanan, I don't know. Maybe she will get soon. And Nikita and Mariam and her colleagues. It's a very interesting session. Before I hand over the session to the chairperson. I express my sincere thanks to the authorities of the university, because I don't know, I'm very difficult to, pronounce the name as you find it difficult to pronounce my name, and the dean, faculty, and other senior colleagues in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication over there in the university, and especially to Dr. Fida, because but for her persistence and her perseverance, probably people like me would not have been appearing before the screen today, yesterday and today. And this is a very lively conference. I must be thankful to all those organizers who are involved in it. I'm looking forward to being of some help to your university and to your department if I'm in any way useful to you. Thank you very much. Now the session is handed over to the chairperson of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Pichanti. You did a great job today. Thank you very much. Again, I must thank all the presenters for their rich research and very deep analysis for our actual and current situation in our profession. First, I must thank Professor Puta for the research concerning media and journalism freedom dilemma. As usual, I think we deal with a main historical concern. We need more research and new research agenda to explore how to use transparency and accountability to improve our media ecosystem, and especially governmental one. Maybe we need more new type of ownership, and I think Dr. Hanan have given us a very impressive picture of the role of entrepreneurship and journalism, a new way and new hope to try to balance this system. Also, we must admit that press in democratic countries has its own limitation too. No system is truly free. We face interest and benefits, relationship of media tycoons with politicians and business. So searching for profit, influence, unfortunately, this equation. Monitoring and controlling internet use is one important threat for freedom from one part, and also from the other part, and the other side of the coin. So it influences society stability. When we talk about rumors, for example, so we need more research in this area. Finally, in generally authoritarian countries, we face a lot of challenges such as laws and regulation, free access to information, syndicates and press councils, ministers, and other type of direct and indirect censorship, which made wikis and fake news and misinformation more legal and acceptable from audience and journalists together. So how it will destroy our profession norms and ethics, it's very important to search for such a problem and concerns. As for Professor Altafullah Khan, thank you very much for your interesting and important paper. You gave us a deep analysis of the field practices in generally and in Pakistan in particular. Thank you very much. It was very, very interesting. But at the same time, I wish to hear more about globalized world, as we face a lot of challenge concerning norms, practices, decision-making process generally, how they deal with that. I wish to know more about this, because it's present one of our main concerns in our current life today and our current profession, and we need to map this in research. So thank you very much, but I missed this point, or perhaps I didn't read the whole paper, unfortunately. Research number 3, and Dr. Hanan Sulaiman, thank you very much. It was very important and new one, and there is a lack of research of this kind in our Arab world, unfortunately, and we need more and more research because it's a new paradigm, and you give us hope that perhaps we can change the profession in the future. So also at the academic part, we must change also our training, how we teaching and encouraging graduate studies students to work in this kind of journalism and to have their own journalists platform and business, whether online or print one. So thank you very much. This new paradigm also forces academy to reconsider traditional method in how to prepare students for a career. This is very important. These changes are happening at a time when the news industry is facing a shift, a great shift in how information is delivered and financially supported. Journalists need to not to sacrifice anymore core values of independence, truth telling, and impartiality and objectivity if they choose to become business owner. This is very important from my point of view. And also, in the Arab world, we need more new research agenda to study this new trend and understand its challenge and opportunity, and especially at the local level, as you said in your conclusion. Also, we need to understand how media convergence provides new business opportunity in media markets and how media entrepreneurs can exploit those opportunities for proposing value to target customers. We need also, as you conduct your research in qualitative methods and tools, and since the very first media research in this field, the qualitative approach has been the dominant, and most of research have been done by qualitative method, yes. We must fill the gap of lack of quantitative research and present a quantitative model of media entrepreneurship. I frankly admit that we're still exploring this phenomena in the beginning, and that the implementation of business intelligence system in any organization should be consistent with the level of maturity and intelligence in this organization, and also by using IT tools in the implementation of this intelligence system. And I know it's hard work, it's not easy, especially in the beginning, yeah. But it's a dream, huh? Let's dream. Finally, I wish to thank Dina and Mariam for their important, interesting research, because memes in our media environment become very important in a participative media culture. Memes, and especially political memes, have become a tool for citizens to seeking to participate actively in a digital public sphere. I confess that internet memes are useful tools in persuasion and mobilization, as well as attracting new audiences. So it's very important at the social and political level. Internet memes have proven to be a popular vehicle of critical political communication in social networks due to the ease of producing and sharing, opportunity for self-expression and receiving feedback to one creativity, and the most important benefit of anonymity that escapes censorship and protect activists. We need to know more about some concerns such as political opinion polarization, civic discourse, and the public sphere. We need also more research to understand memes and hate speech. How did these memes can sometimes arouse moral anger and hate toward another groups or others. So one group or other. So we need more research in this area. We need to know more about why some memes fail while others succeed in a certain way. And we need more in-depth interviews and qualitative methods to know more about prominent meme makers and share in-depth interview. And we must investigate if and how memes can serve as communication tools that contain meaningful image, message, and potentially cultural ideas. So that's all my proposal and my comments. Thank you very much. Thanks again for you Professor Peshandi, and all eminent professors and speakers in this session. It was very important and interesting one. And of course, finally, I want to thank again Professor Dr. Ines Abu Yusuf, Dean of the Faculty, and my dear friend, Professor Amal Sayed, and special thanks to Dr. Fida Mohammed, and thank you all. Have a nice day and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hannah. It was very nice having you as a chairman. I'm very sorry I have a problem with the net, and this is why I kept in and out all the time, guys. But I'm very thankful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. And from here, we are closing the session and we are going to the recommendation session before having the closing words. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Hannah. Thank you, Professor Shpand. And thank you, Dr. Altaf.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. Thanks, everyone in the session.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Amal.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Amal, can we start the recommendation session? Dr. Amal, there are no voice. There is no voice.
Yeah.
لا برضه still there is no.
ये देखो मैंने पूरा कोऑर्डिनेट किया है। इस लड़की यंग लड़की है और असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर है।
Yeah, that's some problem.
Yeah, it seems so. Dr. Amal, can you leave the meeting and just return in a second? Because the mic is not working.
Did you hear me?
Yes, yes, it's working now. Welcome back.
Good afternoon. We have reached the end of the IJCON 2020, and it's my task to provide some closing remarks, IJCON statement. It's the sad task because we shall be closing the door on the lively and stimulating conference, as well as bidding farewell to friends and associates. However, it is also a privilege and an honor to be interested with such an undertaking at a gathering of such eminent people from different parts of the world. We have important statement for our conference. We found that human journalism will remain the essence of journalism, whatever the medium is. Therefore, providing diverse media education is a must to enable presenting a media message that copes with what is posed by the challenges faced in the future. Affirming the need for integration between the traditional and new media, just as much as the need for integration of knowledge. Highlighting the importance of studying the audience in future research to find strength and weakness in the audience and mass media relation. Confirms the importance of dialogue between academics of different scientific schools, not only for experience and knowledge exchange, but also to enable dealing with the challenges and problems of our fields and digital era with respected to culture differences and identity should not be erased by digital identity. Studying the new variable and policy making not only political, but also on all levels in an era where the citizen has the power of choice. Fixing the media stereotypes concerning women and substituting them with real images that match the nowadays women rule. Taking care of the studies and research that focus on the effectiveness and impact of the social media platforms wherever in the field of knowledge presentation, trend formation, and digital marketing. Expanding on research about development usage of the new media platforms, especially in the field of awareness and forming the general awareness of development goals, with extra emphasis on international experience, especially in countries that share similar characteristics with the Egyptian society. Break the Western scientific monopoly that controls the research direction of most Egyptian researchers. We must open our mind to the other half of the world, away from the American and the British schools. Attending to improve students' media skills regarding dealing with social media platforms, whether at the level of presentation, production, or at the level of management, opening up new job opportunities for media graduates. And finally, moving forward through the COVID-19 pandemic, which opened chances to exchange on all levels.
Yes, doctor, we are hearing you.
Yes. I finished the recommendation statement of. Thank you.
And here is the IJCON statement of the conference. It's 2020. This was a wonderful conference. I have personally enjoyed listening to the talks about the media. Maybe I remember a student of mine said once that going to conferences was like taking vitamins, but it is more than that. It is time to make friends, to learn about each other, and to love each other. Media is a common language that has brought us together. Despite the different language that we speak, I have made new friends here, and I have learned a lot and much from every and each participant and chairman and moderator, everyone. All those who contributed to the conference, thank you for all your excellent work. It is fair to conclude that the conference was a great success because of you. So many researchers have contributed in so many ways to turn this event into a smoothly running meeting with many very interesting presentations and a very good atmosphere for discussion and networking. You as chairman, moderators, researchers are thanked for all your great scientific input and for many fruitful discussions and scientific interaction. I owe much gratitude to my professor Ines Abu Yusuf and Professor Amal Said for all what they did and for everything that made this conference like this. Thanks to everyone. And now we are all invited to listen to the final word from Dr. Amal and Dr. Ines and say to you a very warm welcome. Bye-bye. Dr. Amal, it's yours.
Thank you, Fida. I believe that during these 2 days, all of us have obtained a fruitful discussion in this first annual conference, whose main theme is international journalism. We have learned along the 6 sessions and a panel, which were very interactive. Furthermore, I would like to thank all presenters and participants who have joined us in our conference from all over the world. We cannot end this conference without highlight that we had 2 papers published in an international journal, Communication Society and Media Journal, according to our agreement with them. So we must congratulate these papers and
Dr. Amal, your mic is mute.
no? Do you
Yeah,
hear
now,
me?
yes, yeah, I hear you. You just said we are going to congratulate.
Yes. Congratulate Dr. Monia Mohsen and Dr. Shuru Ashraf for their international publication. And now we are about to activate our second agreement with Cambridge Scholars to publish an edited collection of selected papers from the conference. Publishing an edited collection from a conference is a fantastic way to bring the papers presented there to a wider academic audience. Papers presented by our delegates will be discoverable by the academic community worldwide and be indexed within the body of scholarly knowledge. So we will wait for the whoever wants to join that book to send us their approvals to start this process. Finally, I would like to thank all the conference committee, Professor Ines Abu Yusuf and Dr. Fida Mohammed for organizing this conference and ensuring that it proceeded smoothly. Special thanks for Dr. Amal Munir and Dr. Heba Mustafa for their work and efforts in the conference. I want to thank our students who will work on the upcoming video that will document our conference, Muhammad Ibrahim and Muhannad Hamida, and also Bola Rafat, who will supply us with photos. Ladies and gentlemen, when there is a meeting, then there will be goodbye. I'm certain that you are all looking forward to getting back to your daily routine. So I thank you once again for your participation. I hope that you enjoy our conference, and I hope that we can meet again at the second IJCON 2021.
Thank you a lot. Dr. Ines is not with us now. I think there's the internet connection. So thank you, everyone. And from here, we are closing the conference and waiting for you the next year. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope you really enjoyed it.
Thank you, organizers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Dilip.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Gupta ji, for seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Feda.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Prashandi, Dr. Felix. Thank you all.
Thank
you, Dr. Salwa.
Thank you, Fida.
Thank you, Dr. Fida. Thank you, Dr. Fida and Dr. Amal and Dr. Ines. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Salwa.
Thank you, Dr. Khadija. Thank you for everything.
Thanks for allowing us to partake, and inshallah next year you have a bigger one.
Thank you.
And we can come there.
I hope you're, yes, I hope you are going to visit Egypt next time.
We will, yes.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you. See you all. See you. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
And then you forget.